Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the channel. Tonight, as usual, I've got my hostess with the mostess, Andy.
Hello.
Um, Tonight, we're going to be talking about conspiracy theories, mainly about ones with a paranormal slant. So we'll be discussing things like Men in Black, Hollow Earth, the government conspiracies regarding the paranormal experiments that were conducted during World War II, right the way up to the Cold War. And we'll be touching on David Icke and the royal family and his claim that the country is being run, that the royal family are basically a bunch of shape-shifting lizards. That
David Icke is definitely a paranormal slant.
Yeah, very much a paranormal slant. We'll probably touch on the Illuminati as well. Hi, Sam. And then we'll just have a general paranormal discussion after. So, what shall we start with, Andy? Shall we start with Men in Black, being that it's probably the main one?
Yeah, go on, man.
Okay, go. Right. Men in Black are pretty much associated with UFOs and close encounters of the third kind normally. They do occasionally occur with close encounters of the second kind, which are visual sights, but normally when there's been visitations. Basically, Men in Black are often described to visit people who have had encounters with aliens or who have witnessed things that they believe to be of an alien nature. They're often described to be very pale. A lot of the time, people say they are very difficult to distinguish what sex they actually are. They have strange waxy skin. They can appear and disappear really strangely, like they can walk out of a door, go round a corner, and when somebody follows them, they've disappeared. They always tend to be dressed in black suits, and they tend to appear in twos, pairs normally. There are a number of videos on YouTube itself where they have actually been captured on CCTV within various premises, but they are often explained as being not quite human. The common belief is, well, belief is actually split in the UFO community. Some believe that they are sent on behalf of the government of whatever country it is that they appear in. Others believe that they are actually the aliens themselves who disguise themselves in some kind of human form. They often arrive in black cars with blacked out windows as well. There are a few cases where they have appeared in a flash of light and disappeared in a flash of light. The conspiracy part of it is the fact that a lot of people actually believe that they are here with government knowledge, and then there is some kind of alliance going on between the leadership of Earth and oh, Andy, your computer's doing that strange buzzing again.
It must be computer, because
Yeah,
this is brand new. So
it was
yeah,
like it sounds like a cricket, what, and then it winds up. They do. People believe that the Men in Black are actually, like I was saying, here with the knowledge of the government, and they are here to make sure that people are silenced and don't reveal things to the general public, revealing that alien and government collaboration is actually going on. They don't tend to appear to people who have had no kind of encounter with aliens. There is always a UFO or extraterrestrial connection regarding the Men in Black. They're not like the CIA turning up because you're a terrorist or anything like that. They always appear in regards to things of an extraterrestrial nature. Anything you want to add to that, Andy?
yeah. So like you said, they usually do turn up. Apparently, they can turn up in the black cars or olive green.
Oh, right, I've never heard the green one.
Yeah, olive green Cadillacs apparently were a big reported thing. Um, but yeah, very mechanical. Most cases said that they're very non-human, aren't they?
Yeah.
But I don't know if this is like something I've read because I'm going by memory here, or if it's
Hmm.
part of a TV show or whatever. But I seem to have a memory that apparently when people have been in contact with them, that some stuff like when they're like been inside people's homes and
Yeah,
stuff, things
yeah,
can go funny.
yeah.
So like radio interferences and bloody stuff like melting and stuff like that when they've
Hmm.
left. So that are they coming in a craft?
Yeah.
You know,
I know one of the things that is very common in a lot of reports regarding Men in Black is the consistency of the skin.
yeah,
The skin is often described as waxy looking,
yeah,
um, and some people say that it looks like makeup. Um, a lot of them have said they have either that they never notice ears or they have very small noses,
hmm
almost to the point of being slits. They're a very interesting subject to cover, but a lot of people, and I would say in the mass, um, the majority of the reports that people put in regarding Men in Black is this thing about the waxy skin and the fact that they don't actually appear quite human.
hmm
So this is what leads me to believe that they're probably more of a extraterrestrial nature rather than some kind of government official being sent to the house. Um, the other thing that a lot of people report is that there's a general aura of threat about them, and
yes,
quite
yeah,
often they will actually, when they speak to the people regarding what they've seen, they will actually make veiled threats to either the person who has encountered either the aliens or a craft or to their direct family. Are
mm.
they ever with or around women? To be honest with you, I've never actually heard, and the quite possibly could be. I don't know if Andy has. I'll let Andy answer this one in a minute. But as far as I know, I've never actually heard of an account where someone has specifically described that one of them has been female. But some people do say that they appear very asexual, like. When you encounter somebody who you ain't quite sure whether they're a man or a woman, apparently that's another
Yeah.
thing that's very common with them. People sometimes struggle to distinguish on whether they are actually male or female. Um, there's been reports where they appear to have communicated telepathically, though it's been, it hasn't been an obvious thing. And I think this is what the film was based on as well. There is quite often cases of selective amnesia after they've left, and when people have been questioned on the encounter, there are parts of the encounter that they can't actually recall, or they're a bit hazy about. Have you ever heard of a female?
I haven't. No, I'm just checking up on Google now, see if there's any reports.
See, I think this is
Uh,
why they're always referred to as Men in Black.
yeah,
As far as I know, I personally I can't recall ever reading of a case where somebody has declared that one of them was actually female, but that doesn't mean to say that people haven't reported them as female. Becky says, I think one of the story I remember about people who had them in the home, all the clocks stopped working all the time they turned up. Yeah. See, and
yeah.
this is another thing, Becky. There have been cases where they have returned to an house multiple times. First time, it's normally with a warning to discuss, not to discuss what they've witnessed, and they seem to have an uncanny ability to know when the person has broken the agreement. And there has been reports where they've done a repeat return to somebody's house, and on the second visit they've been a lot more threatening than they have the first time around. People do genuinely say that there is an aura of threat about them in the first place, and people do say that they're quite unnerving to be around. But normally the first encounter involves quite a general conversation, but there's implied threat. If they break the agreement, and this, this could be private conversations they have with people in their own home, they somehow know that the agreement not to talk about it has been broken, and they've actually returned and been pretty much out and out threatened. There's been no veiled threats. It's been a direct threat. There
hmm
has been a few rare cases where people have actually disappeared after reporting Men in Black encounters.
Yeah, there is a famous CCTV capture of them, isn't there?
Yeah, there's
What?
actually a very famous one of some office somewhere,
Yeah.
and they actually come in looking for somebody who works in them premises, and they speak to
Mhm.
the secretary
Yeah.
on the desk, and they move really quickly and stuff like that in that video, Andy. There's something really
Yeah.
strange about them.
Compared to everybody else that's moving around, they're really like quick and it's very odd.
It's almost bird-like in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
No, Maureen, this is another thing about them. People like and they've been reported all around the world. When people have been questioned about their accent, very few people have said that they can actually fix an accent for them. They have no natural accent. They have a very neutral voice. It's like the Americans always say that they didn't have an American accent. The reports that have come from the UK, again, they can't pinpoint where in the UK the people have come from. They've just said they've spoken with a very neutral, they have a very neutral pattern of speech, and
Mm.
occasionally what they say as well is very disjointed. It's like English isn't their first language, or they don't quite grasp the nuances of the English language for any particular region. Yes, Becky, that's another thing. Occasionally, they say they have very dark eyes, and that they don't blink. And the other thing that's been noted is if they've been in hot environments, even though they've turned up fully suited with jackets and stuff on, nobody has ever actually noticed them sweating or stuff like that. But it's the thing about the skin that normally attracts people, that people normally remember the most. Is they describe the skin as very waxy and almost like makeup. There's some kind of makeup thing going on. But it is generally agreed that they turn up to deter people from talking about any particular extraterrestrial encounter that they've been involved in.
You,
They,
you know, everything we've just described, right?
yeah,
Absolutely pinpoints that fella that me and Becky saw outside of Morrison's, apart from he weren't dressed in black.
yeah,
So I wonder if he had a day off.
he might have done.
Can you imagine?
He might have done. See, this is another interesting thing about them, Andy. Why do they always appear in black suit and ties, sort of thing? They're very formally dressed when they turn up.
Yeah, yeah,
Why don't they ever appear in casuals, sort of thing?
yeah.
Um, do you think that they do it to confuse people into thinking they're like government officials?
I would have back in day because you'd have automatically uh, back in, like when it were at its massiveness with all this stuff, like 50s, 60s, 70s, all that.
Yeah, yeah,
You'd have automatically gone FBI,
yeah, yeah.
wouldn't you? Straight off bat.
Particularly so in America, but
Yeah,
the same is over here. Most people who turn up on your door in a suit are in some kind of official capacity.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm
So,
wondering if this is why they do it, and they don't realise, that people sometimes have a more relaxed dress code, even official people nowadays, but they still always seem to turn up
mm,
in black suits and black tie, almost like they're attending a funeral.
yeah.
Yeah. Chris Williams says it sounds like scaremongering. Well, this is exactly what they do, Chris. They are basically there to warn people off from discussing whatever it is they've encountered. But 100% of the time, Men in Black only turn up after an extraterrestrial encounter, normally of the second or third kind. Strange lights in the sky, they tend not to turn up for. But if it's a close visual observation of a ship, or if they interact with what they claim are crew members of a ship, that is when people tend to get the visits from the MIBs.
Do we have any idea last time somebody reported one in?
They're still ongoing, Andy.
Are there?
They're still ongoing up until today.
Right.
There's a lot of reports on. If you go on the Bufora site, you'll see on there, which is the British UFO
Yeah.
Research Association. You'll still find up to present day there are people claiming that they have had MIB visitations. They were
Right.
very prevalent in the 80s and 90s, but even up to present day, they are, they're still turning up when particularly famous, reports. It's only when things tend to get into the media that they turn up. If people
Yeah.
keep it to themselves, you never hear about them. Apparently, there was
Oh,
allegedly a UFO sighting in Preston last night. Wouldn't surprise me, Julian. Wouldn't
well, that
surprise me.
that UFO me and my mate saw when we were kids. There were an old black car with fully blacked out windows. Like it's only legal to have sides and back into in
Yeah,
UK.
yeah,
You
yeah.
can't have your front.
No, you
That
win.
was
You win. It's illegal to have your windscreen tinted.
yeah, because that was fully blacked out as well. But we managed to get away from car, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and I never saw drivers, but that were like 2 nights after seeing it.
Do you think you would have experienced an MIB encounter had they have caught you?
I don't know. I can't say. I kind of wish I'd have, knowing what I'm into now and stuff.
Yeah.
If I wish I'd
But
have stepped out and gone, I'm here, and see if what would have happened.
yeah.
Because I think that's what I'd do now. Definitely.
But as a kid, things like that don't cross your mind, do it?
No, it's
You're being followed by a stranger, and your parents drum it into your head. Don't
that's
talk to
it.
strangers. Blah 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 blah.
It's a bit spooky, like when
This
you're a
this this,
kid.
this is one of the interesting things, Maureen. They never actually identify who they are connected to.
No.
If they're questioned, they tend to talk around the situation, but this ties into to what people describe about their telepathic abilities, because when people are later questioned, well, why did you let them in, or why did you not question them further as to who they represented, they can't give an answer. And it's only after they've left they say, it never crossed my mind to question what they'd said.
Mm.
And the other thing that's really interesting is this aspect about they seem to know when private conversations have gone on after the visit. Now, Chris, what pictures are those? But that's the interesting one. Even when people have had like discussions within the family home, within with family and friends there, they have known and they have returned. So are they planting some kind of monitoring equipment in the home when they're there, or have they got some other form of surveillance that they're using?
Mm.
They're a very interesting subjects. And they are one of the biggest conspiracy theories that have stayed consistent throughout the years. And I believe they go right back to Roswell times, Andy.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
I believe they go right back to when it first kicked off in the late 40s,
Yeah.
when the UFO phenomenon really started, ramping up. That these men in black started to appear, but they were particularly prevalent in the 80s and 90s, or that was when they came more to the forefront of public knowledge, because a lot of people were before then were actually frightened to discuss them, because that they admitted that what they were told. No, I don't think we'll ever know, Julian. They were basically people are basically threatened by them. They never turn up to be pleasant and friendly. They always turn up to discourage people discussing what it is they've witnessed. So personally for me, I think there's some kind of extraterrestrial deterrent. But I do believe that our governments full well know who they are. And I believe there is probably, there is some agreement there that they are allowed to go and shut Joe Public up, as
Yeah.
long as they don't take it too far. What's your opinion on that, Andy?
Uh, yeah, very, very similar, obviously, because I don't think the people like sort of working as a government branch. I think it's much, weirder than that. But I've always had an assumption me that that they are some form of robotics because
Do you
we
think they're
hear
robotic?
I do because we hear about there's a robot race or alien, or
Yeah,
extraterrestrial,
yeah,
and there may be some like that they're sending in, that's a little bit more comfortable, but they think's more comfortable for us to view.
yeah.
But really, obviously, they're not because they're not human.
Hmm.
That's what I,
See,
you know.
well, it's quite a popular theory in UFO circles. You know, the little greys.
Yeah,
A lot of people actually believe that they're drones,
yeah.
that they're robotic, and they're actually being controlled by a race that would you know when they describe the taller blonde-looking ones.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You know, the ones that are
Palladiums.
more Norse looking. A lot of
Yeah,
people believe that they are actually the robots of those. You know,
right.
a lot of people believe the greys aren't actually organic; that they're some kind of synthetic. So you know, and from the way they describe the complexions of the men in black, they do have a very similar to description to how a lot of people describe the greys. What
Yeah,
is interesting with the difference is most of the greys tend to be maximum 4 feet tall, whereas the men in black tend to be human sized.
yeah.
Chris says we are aliens to them and they have some of theirs among us and they don't want them being seen, just like with spirits. They want to be heard, not seen. Lol, like kids. Reverend Wild Bill, Julian, this is true. This is why one needs to be careful when they seek, if not ready to top pay the price. I agree with that, Wild Bill. I do, but you know, and this is something else that is interesting to note because people like Bob Lazar and a lot of the amateur radio station, paranormal radio stations in America have reported visits from men in black and stuff like that. Obviously, Bob Lazar was also, you know, he was having government intervention as well because the government were trying to silence him for what was going on at Area 51 and Dreamland. But you know, he's also made claims that he was visited by men in black. Andy, can you just carry on chatting a sec while I just
Yeah, yeah.
accept Chris's request to join above paranormal?
So Sam says people here on YouTube talk about this subject often and get flagged because of the C word. Oh dear.
Which C word?
I'm reckoning conspiracy.
Oh yeah, probably.
Yeah.
That's probably very true to be honest with you.
I won't be surprised.
You know, but they've only got to look at the channel and see we're actually discussing conspiracies in general. You know, I need to accuse the government of anything. I'm just telling you what people think, you know, and what I've read about personally.
Well, that's it. It's not you can't go and research, is it? You know.
No, but you know, I've even got conspiracy in the title of this one, so they're just gonna have to get used to it. I'm afraid. Hi, Joanne. Nice to
I
see
ju-
you. Oh God, Joanne's on.
Aye, that's it.
We'll be getting a question later, Andy.
Aye, Joanne.
I dread to think what the question is we're going to be getting. Um, so that is pretty much your Men in Black conspiracy. Has anybody got any questions on that one before we move on? Which one do you want to do next, Andy? I've got an itchy nose tonight. It's driving me mad.
um, I think we should do David Icke.
Oh, David Icke. Oh my God. Okay. Right. Is everybody okay with the Men in Black one? Right. The next subject is one that is close to the heart of David Icke. Um, I don't know how many of you know. I believe was he a famous footballer at one point?
He was a footballer, yeah.
He was a footballer who suddenly one day went onto national television and declared he was the new son of God. I believe is that what he did first? Didn't he declare he was
Uh,
Jesus Christ?
yeah. I think you were trying to say what second coming, weren't
Yeah, yeah. Basically, he was Jesus Christ returned. Um, David Icke has now gone on to perpetuate a number of various conspiracies that are going on both in this country and worldwide. He is one of the biggest supporters of the Illuminati conspiracy in what he believes that there is actually an higher level of government on this planet that is planet wide, that is managed by a group that is known as the Illuminati. Now, the Illuminati are an interesting subject in itself because they have numerous ties. They are apparently tied to the Knights Templar. They are apparently tied to the Masons, but they are also tied, believe it or not, to a species. It makes me laugh just saying it. Of
Okay.
shape-shifting lizards that have basically infiltrated all the hierarchy of upper society the world round, including our own British royal family.
Yeah.
David Icke actually claims that there is a conspiracy by these shape-shifting lizards, which are in fact the royal family, that they have done a number of things to keep their identity hidden. One of the things that he has claimed is that Princess Diana discovered that Prince Charles was a shape-shifting lizard, and that is what basically soured their relationship. That she knows that she was married to a lizard. Um, it sounds crazy thinking about it.
To be
Uh,
honest, though, he does look a bit lizard-like.
yeah. Uh, the other interesting thing regarding the royal family is that David Icke claims that Prince Philip actually holds an higher position in the Illuminati than does the Queen herself.
Mhm.
And apparently, the Queen Mother was higher than the Queen within the hierarchy. I don't know if he's ever revealed what their overall motives are. Um, I know that he claims the Illuminati basically manipulate all the banks, world finance, everything to do with population control and stuff like that. But he's particularly adamant that the British royal family are extremely high in the hierarchy of this reptilian species. Sam says if he claims he's the second coming, he could have the same personality of a certain person who makes strange ghost communications in his kitchen. Well, the thing is, Sam, if he hears this video, he might start claiming he's a lizard next as well. Um, what is interesting to note about the Illuminati and their connections to the Knight Templar and the Masons is the Masons are believed to have sprung from the Knights Templar. The Knights Templar are known to have had quite a few supernatural connections and are also rumoured to have engaged in a lot of ritualistic ceremonies. If you look on the American banknotes, you will see the pyramid with the all-seeing eye atop it, which apparently is one of the Well, it is the primary Illuminati symbol, which is the pyramid topped by the all-seeing eye, and it's supposed to signify that they see and control everything. Um,
Yeah, symbolism's a big thing in it all, isn't it?
yeah,
It's in like corporate logos and
yeah,
it's everywhere. It's
yeah,
everywhere if you look into it.
yeah. Well, the Masons, Gillian, they sprang from the Knights Templar because they were a subset of the Knights Templar that actually built all the temples for the
Yeah.
Knights Templar, and that is where it springs from. If you visit any of like the Masonic lodges or any of the buildings that are associated with the Knights Templar, you will see there is a lot of symbolism carved into the stonework of them, um, including things like the all-seeing eye and the Templar cross, which is actually based on the old Celtic cross. Very similar thing,
Hmm.
but they apparently have an agenda of world domination, but the royal family is very much tied into it. If you are to believe what David Icke says. Now, although David Icke is basically considered by most people to be a complete crackpot, in his defence, it does have to be said that some of the things he has claimed, and this man has claimed a variety of conspiracies are going on, but the main supernatural one is this thing about the shape-shifting lizards and the Illuminati. Some of the things he has claimed have actually proven to be true, or at least very close to the truth. I know one of the things he's been recently um, discussing is things like 4G and 5G, and apparently that the government is now planning to chip everybody or to use mobile phone, which we know they're already doing. They're using mobile phones as a form to keep tabs on everybody.
Yeah, he's been on about this chipping malarkey for
Yeah,
the last, what, 10 years?
yeah, but it's really come to the fore with him over the last few years, especially with the new 5G technology.
Yeah, yeah.
He's saying that we are going to all actually, and he's even claiming sometimes that it'll be done without our knowledge, that we are all going to be chipped,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that this chip is going to be introduced in the form of like a consumer thing where you can actually do all your banking and everything through it, where you can just go into a shop and swipe your hand over a scanner to pay for goods and stuff like that or anything like that. Michael says, I think the reptilian leaders can be interpreted as leaders that are ruled by the reptilian brain. Now, Michael, David Icke actually claims that the royal family are in fact shape-shifting lizards. He claims that their true form is actually reptilian and they shape-shift into human form. It isn't a metaphysical. It isn't metaphorical with him. It is a complete physical thing with him. He believes it is basically what they do. What were you going to say, Andy?
I was going to say, in one of his seminars I was watching, because I've watched quite a fair few of his seminars, they're quite interesting. Uh, but he says that they're not born reptilian,
Mm-hmm.
which would lend, like, obviously, let's take royal family, for example.
Yeah.
If, obviously, Diana were an outsider to start with,
Yeah.
yeah. So once she had kids
Yeah.
with Charles,
Mm-hmm.
them kids are still being human, but they've got to go through some sort of ceremony
Mm-hmm.
to invite this reptile in from another dimension.
Yep.
And then it takes over and takes form and gets rid of most of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he says happens, which is quite interesting. It's like
Yeah.
a form of, it's like, lend it to biblical terms, a demon possession.
Mm-hmm.
It's a similar thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, one of the more interesting stories concerning Charles and Diana, and it's a little bit icky depending on how prudish you are. Apparently, one of the things I have read that was claimed by David Icke at one time is the way that Diana found out this what about all this was when they first got married and she went through her menstrual cycle.
Okay.
Apparently, that was what triggered him to shapeshift, and he couldn't control it, and he basically shapeshifted into a lizard in front of her, and that is how she basically found out.
Oh.
That is one of the claims. Now, people may laugh at that, but I used to work in a reptile shop, and I used to have a rather large male iguana that I kept at home, and my iguana could not be around women at that time of the month because
Right.
the iguana used to get very, very excited and basically start mating rituals with them, which involved whacking them with the tail, which was quite painful. So my iguana had to. He was left to roam around the house normally. He was let out of his viv
Yeah.
in the day. But if anybody came and it was their time of the month, I knew without them telling me by the way this iguana used to act. So he had to be put away, and you had to say, oh, he's just the way he reacts to some people. Obviously, with close friends, I used to tell him.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I don't know, Joanne. If what Andy's just said is true, um, it could be yes or no. I would have thought that at least William would have gone through the thing because he is future king.
Yeah.
But apparently, from I think from David Icke's point of view, every single member of the royal family, and that includes more distant not just the people in direct closest to the throne. It would be people like Princess Anne as well and all her kids. It would be anybody actually related to the Windsors by blood are actually reptilians. But it's interesting to note that David Icke has always claimed that the Queen, although she is one of the most prominent figures in this reptilian society, she was actually below the Queen Mother and Prince Philip. Daddy or chips law.
Mhm.
No, we're not Irish, we're English. I'm from the Midlands, Andy's from the North. But we both live in the North. Yeah, it's quite it does sound over the top, Joanne. And if you listen to a lot of what David Icke says, it does come across as outrageous, but he has got such a way of putting things across. He does actually make compelling viewing because of the controversy that he generates. Because he can make even the most far out conspiracy sound believable if you listen to him. Don't you think, Andy?
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know, he's
Um,
always got an argument for what he comes across. What if the storyteller of legend had lisp and meant wizard, not lizard? My bro had lizard was harmless, lol. Yeah, my male iguana did used to react to women when it was their menstrual cycle. He used to get extremely excited about it, to the point of whacking them with his tail. Yeah, cheers, Chris. I'll have a look at them after the stream. But David Icke has come up with some interesting conspiracy theory. Can you think of any more of his that have been quite interesting, Andy?
let me think. Well, oh, I think you kind of mentioned most on it all
Yeah,
in one go.
yeah. The main paranormal ones concerning David Icke have been the Illuminati and the fact that they do a lot of ritualistic, and he does claim that there's been human sacrifices
Oh yeah, definitely.
concerning the Illuminati and these lizard people and the lizard people themselves. That's the two main ones with bearded drag. Yeah, they're a lot smaller, Chris. Um, Tell you more about what, Gillian, the excited lizard, the randy lizard. But wasn't his pet sitting for his teacher? But it is interesting that David Icke claims that this secret that the royal family have got about being shape shifting lizards is what actually broke up the marriage of Charles and Diana. But you know, Diana and Charles have claimed a different thing, so I presume they're probably, well, mind you, they ain't going to admit it even if they are, am they? I do believe that Diana was never converted.
Yeah.
That I do think he's insisted that Diana was never actually converted to lizardom, if that's what you'd call it, lizardom.
I, I mean, he claims that it was Philip that got rid of her, weren't he?
Yeah, yep, yep.
And where crash happened in Paris,
Mhm,
they've actually got an obelisk style monument that's
mhm.
like a candle
Right.
with flame, and that's one of the symbolisms, like it was
Yeah,
us that did it,
yeah.
kind of thing.
Yep,
You know?
yep. But it's interesting to note that the Illuminati symbol is actually on the US banknotes in the form of the pyramid and the all-seeing eye.
Oh, yeah.
It is also interesting to note that Washington D.C. itself was built by a lot of people who were involved in the Masons, and Washington D.C. is set out in a giant Masonic symbol. Yeah, Joanne, a lot of people believe she was got rid of. Um, some people believe she was got rid of because of her association, obviously, with Dodi Al Fayed. David Icke will tell you she was got rid of because she knew too much about the Illuminati and the shape shifting lizard thing.
I heard that she'd give some letters to one of her, like one of her butlers,
Oh, that'd be Paul
to
Burrell, probably.
probably to be released on a certain date if this certain thing happens.
Right.
If there's any truth to that, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, it would do, actually.
Like some truths about what were going on and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if ever you go to London and Buckingham Palace and you see a large green, scaly creature behind one of the windows of Buckingham Palace, it's probably Liz herself.
Hey, that could be. Liz could be old Loch Ness. She might be like visiting Scotland and going
Yeah.
for a swim.
You never know. It might be going for a swim when I was up in Balmoral.
Oh dear.
Chris says there is a lot of Masons in Yorkshire. There is a lot of Masons all over the place.
I talk to one quite regular, an old guy that comes into the park, and
Well, my best friend from school is a Mason now, and he's going right up through the ranks.
really,
Yeah, I believe there's 32 degrees to the Masons or something.
yeah,
That they call them degrees, don't they?
yeah, they do.
And he's going quite. He's master of the gate now, whatever the fucking hell that means.
Oh,
Which
okay. I
which
think
which,
I think I know what that means.
which again in itself is an interesting title.
Yeah.
It's Paul Burrell, Chris. Yeah. I don't know how much. I know Paul Burrell himself has made reference to David Icke in the past, so whether he knows something that he hasn't let on yet. But he does claim that Diana confided everything in him, so it might be
Yes.
interesting to see what Paul Burrell does actually know. Be interesting to see if he suddenly died of, suddenly.
Can you
Particularly if
imagine?
they know when this release date is and what is supposedly due to trigger it.
Mm.
That would be quite interesting. There's a quite poor man's Masons called the Buffs. Ain't that a porn channel, Gillian? Or, or the British Naturist Association. It's called the Buffs. I've got to be honest, Chris. The Masons is one thing I've never been interested in getting involved with. I have watched a lot of videos on what they do and what they're about, um, and I think they're a bit like Scientology in that respect. They're not as benign as they like people to think they are, and there's a lot of corruption surrounding the Masons. But there again, there was also a lot of construction surrounding the Knights Templar, which is what they are believed to have sprung from. I don't believe that the Knights Templar did all the things they were accused of, but I do believe that they did some of the things they were accused of because they were eventually disbanded because they were declared heretics
Hmm.
because of some of the practices they were apparently conducting, which did include they were accused of human sacrifice. I do believe that there was a lot of pagan ceremony involved with the Knights Templar, and I do believe it was conducted with the knowledge of the Pope at the time.
Well, they were in like a bit of a crossover period, weren't they?
Yeah,
Templars in
yeah, it was during.
weren't they a big movement? Some at Golden Dawn or something,
It was
which was
they were actually at their height in the crusade. They were formed to go and fight in the Crusades.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
what
yeah,
they were done for. But the Golden Dawn actually based themselves on a lot of the Knights Templar
yeah, yeah, yeah.
ideals. Then, as did Aleister Crowley, because he was
Yes, see,
part
you
of
are
the
a
Gold.
member of that.
He was a
Yeah,
member of the
yeah, yeah.
Golden Dawn, and was it Lawrence? Was it what was his name? H.P. Lawrence, is it? Whatever his
Oh,
name
yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah,
Sure.
yeah, yeah.
He was at odds with Aleister Crowley, and Aleister Crowley broke off from the Golden Dawn to form his own little, whatever you want to call it.
Hmm.
Um, and obviously that's where the Wiccan Rede was corrupted into do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. But there's a lot of there is a lot of supernatural elements being brought down from the Knights Templar via the
Yeah,
Masons into present day society.
yeah.
Literally down to the likes of Aleister Crowley.
Hmm.
Tupac exposed a lot of the Illuminati ways. There's a lot of very interesting things because I watched a video last year where they even claimed Lady Gaga was in some way involved with them, and
Oh,
apparently,
yeah. Don't a lot of celebrities have this like reset period? Have you seen?
yep,
That's connected to it all, isn't it?
yep. There's this
Where they'll have like a little meltdown on stage or something.
yeah. The,
And
the the one of the
yeah,
conspiracies concerning the Illuminati is people who are successful basically sell their souls to the Illuminati um, for success, fame, money, or whatever. But the price to pay is they literally sell their soul to the Illuminati. And one of the other things they do is they have to subliminally acknowledge the Illuminati in things like their music videos with symbology and stuff like that. And
yeah,
there was a video I watched sometime last year. I can't even tell you what it was called now, but it was to do with the Masons and stuff, and they even linked Lady Gaga by the Masons back to the Illuminati.
yeah.
Yes, Gillian, the Vatican has a lot of secrets. Um, this is why the Da Vinci Code and stuff is actually based loosely on fact. There are people that believe that the Vatican does actually possess an unpublished, um, what you call them, that the apostles wrote. You know, You got Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. What are they called in the Bible? The four. Help me here, Andy.
I don't know. I don't know about Bible
Now,
stuff.
nor me. Well, the four apostles did the four parts of the Bible, don't they? And they're claiming that there is one that that actually has never been published because it would paint the Catholic Church in a bad light.
All right.
The Vatican is another conspiracy too. They seem to be more. Well, there is also Chris. There's also a common belief that when the Antichrist comes, that he will actually be a pope. That is a quite commonly held belief amongst a lot of people. That the if you actually delve into the Bible, which I don't to any great length because I have read it, but I don't believe in it. But they say that if you read it and read between the lines, it does actually state that the Antichrist will be the Pope. Parabibles. Yeah, we should write our own Bible, Andy. The
Why not?
Parabible.
I'll
The
give it a go.
Gospels, that's the word. We could
Gospels,
have the
right?
Gospels of Andy, Brett, and Sam. Yes, Gillian, if God or the IO1 came back to Earth, the Vatican and them would be dealt with swiftly. See, I don't believe things from a Christian point of view, so I don't believe there's going to be an apocalypse from the
No.
point of view of Christians. I believe there may be an apocalypse from the point of view of Gaia. I do believe
Yeah.
the Earth may rise up itself and deal with us, but I don't believe it's going to be as a form of Jesus Christ and his ilk. But the Pope at the time blocked the other passages. Yeah, but it is rumored that the Vatican is in possession of an unpublished gospel that actually paints what the Vatican have done in a very bad light. The Old Testament contradicts the New Testament. Yeah. See, the thing is, as with, and not just with the Bible, Chris, this applies to all religions. They update their book, be it the Bible, the Quran, whatever, to match current social situations. So, they just update it so that they can carry on keeping control of the masses. Pope John Paul was supposedly the keeper of a lot of dark secrets. Well, it's believed, Joanne, that as a pope dies and the new one comes in, that they're passed on all the knowledge of all the naughty things that the Catholic Church get up to or have got up to. Because there's also rumours that there's a lot of paganism involved within the Vatican. Do you know that, Andy?
I didn't know.
Yeah, there's rumours that a lot of the bishops and is it cardinals and stuff.
Yeah.
Apparently, that that there's a lot of, shall we say, pre-Christian ceremonies go on within the Vatican in the
I
higher
t-
echelons of the Catholic Church.
I'll tell you what I can confirm.
Mm.
Are you ready? You're going to find this very interesting.
Go on.
There is some religious sect out there or people, right? And I know for sure one's a cardinal,
Yeah.
avidly monitoring YouTube paranormal channels, right? Because I
Right.
know somebody who was being contacted by one
Mm-hmm.
in a very interesting case of an ongoing name that used to come out of a spirit box,
Right.
and they are giving advice on what to do with this entity,
That's interesting.
right? And anybody that gets it, they're
Yeah.
taking very big note of it. So that's quite interesting. And this person is highly connected to ancient ramen.
Really?
Yes, that's some little underground knowledge for you.
Yeah. That's very interesting. What would the Catholic Church be interested in at the Ramin?
Yeah,
But there again, it's also interesting to note that the Ramin has got a bishop's room.
exactly.
The Ramin has got strong connections to the church, has it not?
It has.
So did it have strong, as it had strong religious connections for a reason? Is there
Mm.
something they know about that place that isn't public knowledge?
It makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Sam says I'm Christian, but it's put aside when if it comes to ITC or paranormal research on a scientific level, even if it contradicts with my beliefs as a Christian. Not Zach Bullybagans, then Gillian says. I'm trying to think of names that have commonly come out at the ramming. I know the most popular one is the succubus, but I doubt she's of interest to the Pope.
No, no.
It's got to be one of the others that have, that appears there quite interesting. Hi, system. I heard the Vatican owns an observatory. Wonder what they are looking for. Well, I believe the Vatican have actually sponsored a lot of private research into the search for extraterrestrials and stuff like that.
They're quite open to it, aren't they?
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
quite interesting because if extraterrestrial life is ever proven, it puts the Vatican in a very awkward position.
I'll take any pope on Joanne.
You'll wake up one night and you'll be being strangled by a shepherd's crook.
A flick at his switch of me wand and he'll be Avada Kedavra.
Right, so that is pretty much David Icke covered and shape-shifting lizards. What should we do next? The Hollow Earth and Hitler?
All Earth. Yeah, cool.
Right, the next conspiracy we'll do is Hollow Earth and Hitler and the Nazi connection to the belief. I don't know how many of you know, but both Hitler and Churchill were very strong supporters of the paranormal. Hitler himself was rumoured at one point to possess one of the Aztec crystal skulls. What a lot of people don't know is Hitler was a very big believer in the hollow earth. He
Hmm.
believed that the earth itself has a big hollow space in the middle of it, and that there is a super race that lives at the centre of the earth, who are Aryan, as the Nazis used to like, and that they would help him win the war. There was millions spent in stolen Nazi gold by Hitler trying to reach and contact this super race at the centre of the earth. They have also been connected to the Atlanteans and things like the ancient Egyptians, and also to the Aztecs and the what's the other one that did the calendar?
Mayans.
The Mayans who did the calendar.
Yeah.
Um, they're all interconnected with the Hollow Earth. Uh, there is also a belief that a lot of UFO bases are um, situated at the centre of the Earth, and that
I was
what's
actually watching an episode of Ancient Aliens about this a couple of days ago.
hmm
And, oh, what did they say now? They said, whoever was speaking, it's a guy who's dealt with sort of Antarctic a lot.
hmm
And he says that if you can get to go and do some research there,
yeah.
he says you're almost 95% positive to have a UFO experience in sight
Oh,
there.
nice.
That's what he said,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Yep. What is interesting about the Hitler thing is when the Allied forces finally occupied Germany and um, took possession of the bunker where Hitler and Ava Braun apparently killed us, and I'll say apparently killed themselves because that's another conspiracy theory that he was never actually committed suicide. A lot of what was removed from the bunker to this day has never been revealed. It is stayed top secret. Hitler was a massive fan of the supernatural, as was Winston Churchill. And Winston Churchill was actually the prime minister who abolished the Witchcraft Act because of his belief in the paranormal and the supernatural. But Hitler was said to have been conspiring with this race at the centre of the earth to achieve world domination. He was linked to the crystal skulls as well. The crystal skulls themselves are interesting because it is claimed that they are actually communication devices with either extraterrestrials or these people who supposedly live at the centre of the earth. Um, but there was at the time of World War Two, there was a big Nazi conspiracy going on concerning Hollow Earth and Hitler and this super race. This is what the Nazi bell was. They thought it was a time machine. Yes, Chris. Um, the Nazis also, interestingly, when a lot of the Nazi um, blueprints and stuff were confiscated, they were also experimenting on things like zero gravity and stuff like that for travelling with ships. And it is believed that the Nazis were also in contact with at least one extraterrestrial race. You got anything to add to that, Andy?
No, I hadn't. Didn't somebody apparently fly into this hole in Antarctica and
Yes,
see this underground?
yes.
I can't for the life of me remember the name of that guy.
There's somebody who's claimed he actually went in by accident. I don't think he went in deliberately.
No, yeah, it was totally
I think he
accidental.
went in by accident, but he described a city at the centre of the earth, and apparently it had got its own light sources and stuff,
Yeah,
and all
yeah.
its own vegetation, and he did describe this pretty much an Aryan race that Hitler was striving for. And he did come out again, obviously, to tell the story, but it's interesting to note that there are parts of Antarctica that are off limits to everybody. Now, why would areas of Antarctica be off limits to Joe Public?
Especially without, I mean, it's not obviously not got a population of its own,
No.
and exactly why would it? You know,
Hmm.
what are they hiding there?
Yeah. Joanne B says she has the same birthday as Hitler. That explains a lot, Joanne. System says the alleged demon that possessed Annalise Michael said Hitler was one of the demons. Yet I'm very skeptical about that possession, to be honest with you, System. I think she just rattled off a list of names and stuff that she had heard, that were associated with the devil, because she did come from an extremely religious family. And I think she probably rattled off all the religious evil names she knew and then just slung Hitler in there for good measure. That's just my personal opinion. What's yours on that, Andy?
Oh, I don't know. I've not really looked into that.
It's what the film that haunted the possession of Emily Rose is based on.
Oh, is it
Yeah,
right?
she was a girl, but she came from this religious family in was it Germany? And basically, the priest and her parents ended up going to prison for it because they performed something stupid like 100 and odd exorcisms on her in the end,
Yeah,
and she basically died of malnutrition. But the
right.
doctor and everything was in collaboration with it. Even the doctor believed she was possessed, and it was a very strange situation. Hi Lee. The crash. Chris says the crash craft at Roswell. One alien was alive and two died, and one was found in the craft. Yeah, from what I believe of Roswell, from what I've heard from accounts of eyewitnesses, there was four aliens in the craft that crashed at Roswell. Two were dead on impact. One was seriously injured and died once he was transported to the base, and apparently the last one lived on for a number of years. Chris says the religion loves the past, so giving something a name like the devil is so backwards it wants you to think backwards, I think. The devil was just formed to literally to demonize paganism, Chris. It was to turn people from the old religion into the new one. That's all that was. Right, the last conspiracy theory we'll talk about before we go into a general discussion on the paranormal is the one concerning the governments during World War Two, right up to the Cold War, concerning the secret paranormal experiments that they conducted over a period of 50 years. I know for a fact the Russians, the British, and the Americans, for definite, were conducting experiments regarding remote viewing, um, astral travel, all sorts of weird and wonderful things. There have been some papers released regarding things that were going on at the time, particularly around the Cold War. The Americans and the Russians were having pretty much a race like they did to get to the moon, to be the first people to develop psychic abilities to allow them to astrally remote view the other side's stuff. It is believed it's still ongoing. What is interesting to note is a lot of the documentations from the 80s and 90s have still remained classified to this day. So it leads me to believe that the governments, at least the British, Russian, and American governments, made some sort of advances in the paranormal regarding at least remote viewing. Do you want to add to that, Andy, while I quickly run to the loo?
Yeah, can do.
Cheers.
Yeah, I was watching a little bit of an interesting documentary on remote viewing earlier, and they come up with some really cool results. It was like sort of a modern day experiment, and what they'd done was they got two ladies apart. They got everybody on this like sort of ranch in America, and they were doing some like sort of UFO observation, and whatever they got sort of like tracking for satellites, tracking for man-made aircraft, and if anything was showing up in the sky that were neither of them, then they were like, obviously, like what is that? What could it be? Seeing any abnormalities in its flight? If it were pulsing, weird flashing lights or whatever. And these two ladies that were trying to remote view what the team were doing, they actually discovered something flying that were neither satellite or registered aircraft. And these two ladies that were separate come up with that they'd seen some sort of blue energy disk that was not of our reality. I think that's how they explained it. So, and they both come up with this very, very interesting stuff. And just to like clarify that, the tracked ISS coming over, and they'd actually said, that's that craft with lights on an ISS kind of thing, which I thought were really, really, really cool.
What's that?
It was a remote viewing experiment that two ladies did, where like people trying to observe UFOs.
Yeah.
And I was just saying that they've like got tracking information of satellites and man-made craft that's registered, and they actually saw something that were neither of them two.
Yeah.
And these two ladies that were separate, trying to remote view what group were seeing.
Yeah.
And they'd both wrote that they'd seen a blue energy disk that were not of this reality.
Oh, right.
That's how that's what they'd wrote down. But they physically saw a pulse of light and it travelling, and I thought that was really cool.
I know that there's that concerning remote viewing and telepathy. There's actually a very interesting story. I believe it surrounds Harry Price, where he agreed to leave I think it was Harry Price. He agreed to leave a message to prove life after death, and apparently 3 separate mediums in different parts of. I think there was one in America, one in England, and there was one somewhere else, and they were all receiving parts of this message, and they were getting references to each other, and they put the message together, and that was all linked with astral travel and telepathy and stuff like that. That was quite interesting.
Right.
System says I was listening to an old Art Bell show. He had an Air Force captain who remote viewed, and he stated he remote viewed the devil. I think he needed to stay off the mushrooms if he saw the devil. I think I seen the space station years ago when I stayed the night at my ex's house. She lives in the country. It was the early hours. Well, the thing is, Lee, it's good to be out in the country, especially for things like UFO sightings, because you've got very little light pollution out in the country. And this is what a lot of people struggle who live in cities and towns, because you've got a lot of light pollution. There's a lot in the sky that you don't actually see. people don't realise how much, artificial light towns and cities project up. I liked Art Bell. There's been a lot of very interesting things concerning remote viewing and astral travel, but what is particularly interesting to note is the ones that the government conducted. And they have openly admitted that they've been conducted. The Americans, British, and Russians, have admitted to it. But a lot of the research that went on at the time is still highly classified, which leads me to believe that they made some sort of breakthrough in one area or another. I really do.
What do you think they were up to with Philadelphia experiment? What do you think they were trying to succeed with that?
Well, there's rumours they were trying to do time travel, weren't there?
Time travel, yeah. Because
There was something went on with it. There was definitely something went on, but you've got to ask yourself, Andy. Again, knowing what we know about that period, could that be tied into the extraterrestrial thing and the conspiracies where the government and the extraterrestrials are collabing on something?
oh yeah, because it was back in
Yeah.
'43,
Yeah.
weren't it?
Were the American government given some technology, or did they retrieve some technology they shouldn't have had, and something went wrong with it?
Yeah. Because apparently when it come back, like people were like actually part at ship.
Hmm.
Like when it reappeared, they were like inside
Yeah.
metal and
They were
stuff
they were
like
they
that,
were they were like fused.
fused in. Oh,
They were fused into the structure. Yeah.
yeah.
Lee says, and all them loud noises getting heard round the world, gear sounds and trumpet sounds. Yeah, there were bodies fused to the ships, Chris. They were actually embedded in the metal in the bulwarks and stuff. That's the word I was looking for. Bermuda. We discussed the Bermuda Triangle last month, didn't we, Andy?
Yeah, yeah.
For people who don't know, there's a large quartz crystal pyramid at the bottom of the sea, in dead centre of the Bermuda Triangle, which does make you wonder if that's actually what's radiating the field.
Could be.
I think that, to be honest with you, Lee, I think that's what they were trying to do. I think they had that. I think they'd either been given some cloaking technology by somebody off world, or they'd recovered it from a crash site and played around with it and didn't quite understand what they were messing with, and it backfired on them. But for it to fuse bodies into the ships, it's got to have in some way interacted with reality, Andy. It had got to have done.
Oh,
There'd
definitely.
got to have been some kind of temporal shift there for them to actually fuse into the ships themselves. Time travel backwards, I guess. Nothing there in future yet. Well, empty hopes and wishes to be filled. Could be, guys. Didn't know that. You didn't know what, Lee? Right. While we're at, that's pretty much the conspiracy side done. So we'll just go on to like general paranormal chat and stuff. Now, the first question I've got to ask you, Andy, and this is Gay from Australia. I mentioned it to you earlier. During World War One and World War Two, a lot of the problem they had a lot of problems with the aircraft on the what's it, and a lot of
Mm.
pirates and mechanics actually reported seeing gremlins. Right, doing
Yeah.
it. What's your opinion on that?
Right. So we can tie it back to sort of interesting occult back then.
Hmm.
Now, as we know, that a lot of sort of pagans,
Yeah.
druids, stuff like that. A lot of old time witches were obviously interested in nature spirits. If there were a case of something like that going on with some tampering with mechanics,
Hmm.
then there is nothing to say that somebody could convince some form of goblin to go and perform some sabotage.
Yeah.
Because I think they'd be quite happy to do it.
See what I said to Ross. For me, I think it's one of three things. The first one is the most obvious answer. They were in the middle of war. These planes were used a lot,
Yeah.
and mechanical standards wouldn't have been as tight as they normally would. They'd be having to botch these planes because there'd have been a lot of repairs on them. That's my first one. The second one was, add whatever the government's been doing in these experiments regarding astral travel and stuff like that. Add one of these governments basically um, had a breakthrough that allowed them to tamper with, remotely with people's stuff. And the
Yeah.
third one is, was it the Fae themselves, and were they pissed off about the damage being caused to the planet itself during war, and decided to step in themselves and start interfering.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting one, right? If yes, gremlins on the wings of the aircraft. Yeah, they were, and it was quite a regular occurrence. But what's interesting to note, Maureen, it was not just World War I; it was World War II as well. That Twilight Zone is basically what it was based off. Lee was the rumours during the war of gremlins were reported, wrecking aircraft or messing with them. Sam says very often, being on amateur bands, we get these channels with weird codes, and nobody has got to the bottom of it. Especially what we call number stations. Yeah, what's your opinion on them number stations, Andy?
Oh, I don't know. I've never come across something like
Right, basically, what they are, the state, there's codes being recorded on frequencies,
that.
and
All
they're
right.
just lists and lists of numbers, and they've been running for years, and nobody knows where they're coming from or what they're supposed to be. They are just literally reams and reams of numbers of a voice saying numbers, various numbers, almost like a bingo caller.
Right. A
And
bit
then
like a Lost.
yeah,
A bit like a Lost.
yeah, but they're literally long lists of numbers, and these stations
Right.
just broadcast them, and then they may disappear, and then a couple of months later reappear again with a different set of numbers. Maureen
Oh,
says, "How did they stay on the wing at hundreds of miles an hour?" Lol. Well, if they are the fake Maureen, they didn't necessarily have to be fully in this reality.
yeah.
If they're only part way in, things like wind and turbulence wouldn't affect them anyway. Yeah, that's what I've just been saying about the number stations, Lee. They're basically voices broadcasting just what appears to be random numbers. Sam, do you want to come into the chat and talk about um, the number stations? Because it sounds like you know more about them than I do. Let's see if Sam wants to come in. She can talk about the number stations and Andy.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I know Sam's really into the communication side of things, so that's more Sam's strong point than mine or yours. I do know of them, and I've heard some of them, and they really are. They're just deadpan voices rattling off just lists of numbers.
Right.
Let's see if Sam wants to come on the stream and discuss them. Right, okay. Let me just call her into the call, Andy. Um, you should be getting a call now, Sam. Please tell me you got your Skypes on. Just bear with us, folks, while we get Sam into the stream. Has she answered yet? Are you here,
I don't
Sam?
think so.
Sam is the Lincolnshire poacher still transmitting. Oh, I'd never heard of that one. Hang on, we're going funny again. Is Sam here? Come on, Sam, answer the call. He's probably busy getting the Skype set up now. Yeah, we're going to get Sam into the conversation, and Sam will tell you about the number stations, because they are quite interesting, because nobody knows what the nature of them is. You know, they don't know whether it's some form of spying or whether it is actually let's try calling her again. Are you here, Sam?
Breaker 19 for a copy, over.
You're on, hang on, let me turn you on the stream.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, and for some reason I've just gone huge.
Yeah, I can't even see myself here. Hold on a second till I get back to the chat here. I have to open window. Where am I? Yeah, here we are.
Right, can you... I don't know if people can hear Sam yet.
I'm there, but I'm not there.
Hang on.
Oh, wait a minute. I have my camera off. Turn on camera.
Hang on, Sam, I may need to set your source up. I think that's you, Sam. There's Sam.
Yeah, I'm getting feedback. I think I need to close Skype, I think.
No, you can't close Skype because we'll lose you.
Oh, right.
You may need to mute your... Go on, say something, Sam.
Hello.
Andy, say something.
Hello.
And then I'm saying something, so everybody should be able to hear us now. Say something, Sam.
Hello.
Yeah, I don't think we're getting any feedback now, or shouldn't be. I hope.
Right.
It does occasionally go funny, Sky. Right, Sam. Would you like to tell everybody about the number stations?
I'm getting feedback. Hold on a second. The feedback. A lot of the information from the feedback is the amateur radio people. They seem to have tracked it down to a certain timetable that these codes would go out on a certain hour, and they would come. They would broadcast on a certain day and a certain time, sort of thing. So some of these people have taken into, have looked into this, but there is no indication where these signals are coming from,
Right.
and why they are broadcasting. You know. I've got two streams going at the same time here. There's feedback going back here.
Have you got a feedback, Andy?
No, I can't, you know.
Hang on a bit, Sam. Let me see if I can sort it. Let me just lock all that and move it. For some reason I've shrank, but we'll have to make do with that for now. Have you got your Skype? Have you got your Skype turned off on your computer, Sam?
No.
The sound. Mute.
Will I turn that off? Yeah.
Yeah, I think you might be getting a feedback off yourself, possibly. Because when I talk, I'm not getting a feedback, and when Andy talks, I'm not seeing a feedback off Andy. Go on, say something, Sam. No, you've muted yourself. You need to come back on, Sam.
I need to mute. I muted myself on Skype.
Yeah, when you're talking, you're actually coming through on Andy's as well. You're getting a feedback on Andy's.
Yeah, I have about a 20-second lag on the stream.
Have you muted Facebook? YouTube?
No, but I'll do that.
You need to mute YouTube. That's probably what's causing it.
Yeah.
No, hopefully
Yeah.
that should stop it for you.
Yeah, I have about a 20-second lag there.
Yeah, it'll be YouTube.
Yeah, I've had an interest in the amateur radio side of things. Now I haven't fully done my test or license yet, and I might do that. It doesn't stop us listening. Yeah, it is legal to listen and that.
Yeah.
And it's now available to the masses through SDR, which is software-defined radio.
Right.
Which is basically it's a dongle that you put into your laptop, and you can attach an antenna to this dongle, and you can get every frequency under the sun, including HF, and a lot of these frequencies, even down to listening in on baby monitors.
Right.
Now, that's how accurate it is. You can also track aircraft through the signal that they are putting out. That's how accurate it is, and it is available for the masses, like for anything from 20 pounds.
Right.
And the thing about the software as well is it will give you a visual readout of the frequencies that are being broadcasted and what is picked up. So between that kind of technology and the technology from amateur radio stations, like some of these people that are into this spend a ridiculous amount of money in the equipment, including the antennas and stuff. They're picking. There's these reports of different kinds of strange broadcasts that come through, and a lot of this is not audible speak. It's signals like glitches, beeps, and kind of like sort of like Morse code.
Right.
And the other frequencies is basically someone physically calling out numbers. And nobody has ever got to the bottom of that. So we don't know what exactly is going on there. So it's one of those interesting things,
How long have they been going on, Sam?
Apparently been going on for many, many years.
And
Since the 1950s, apparently.
And is it just numbers?
Apparently that's what I've been hearing. I actually picked up one of these stations myself, and basically it was they were calling out zeros, ones, and twos. Do you know?
Yeah, because the ones I've heard have actually been all sorts of numbers, and sometimes it's been a female voice, and sometimes it's been a male, and it has literally just been lists and lists of numbers said in with no apparent pattern to them.
Yeah.
So I don't know, what they're supposed to be connected to. But
Yeah.
I didn't realise they'd been going since the 50s. I thought these were quite a modern thing.
No, apparently it's been going on a long time, according to some amateur radio people.
All right. I'm surprised you'd never heard of them, Andy.
No, I hadn't. Not at all.
Lee's put rest of the world use Morse code. Ireland, they use Morris's code.
But actually, the government has stopped officially using Morse code a number of years ago. Actually, a couple of weeks after I done my UHF license.
So what do they use now then?
Well, I mean, like, there's no replacement basically for it. Um, uh, well, my license actually a VHF license, but it's marine only. But they felt like they don't, because of the advances in technology and mobile radio. There is no need for the Morse code, so they officially stopped using it a number of years ago.
Right, Lee wants to know what he'd need to use to hear these things. Is it just basically a world radio?
World Radio can pick them up. Yes, I actually picked my the broadcast that I was talking about. I actually picked it up on a Texan PL 660. But anything with a number of shortwave bands should do the trick.
So basically, it's anything with shortwave bands.
Yes, but with shortwave bands, make sure that you extend the antenna, you know, to get that signal, you know.
See, I know that that Roberts World Radio that I've got, that's actually got a socket for an external shortwave aerial.
Yeah,
It might be interesting setting me one up.
apparently the rays of the sun can affect that signal, and the signal travels further at nighttime. It's something to do with the atmosphere around the Earth, that the signal passes through a lot easier during nighttime.
Do you think that's because of the atmospherics and stuff, and because I suppose a lot of radio transmissions are lower during the night, and like there's a lot
Yeah,
less, there's a lot less signals going out overnight.
yeah, there'll be less traffic, but it's something to do of the signal bouncing off the Earth's atmosphere.
Yeah,
That it's different than nighttime than the day, so it can bounce off the Earth's atmosphere and travel a longer distance.
yeah, because I used to do a lot of CB when I was younger, and we used to do a lot of night work on the CB. Andy, I've just asked Joanne to think of a question for you.
All right, cheers.
'Cause we can't have a night without a Joanne B question.
I've just been reading up on this number stations thing, and
Yeah, it's really interesting stuff, Andy.
they reckon it's to do with Cold War, don't they, and espionage and.
Yeah, but it's still going on. This is what they can't work out, whether it's to do with spying or what it is.
Mm.
Lee says, when I used to use a CB many years ago, I found that I could contact different parts of the world early hours. Yeah, I used to quite a lot get the French and the Dutch and stuff on a night with my CB.
Yeah, I picked up the Canary Islands on a handheld radio. Well, it was an awful lot bigger than actually this. Way back in the 90s, I mean, like even the handhelds were big radio and that.
Yeah.
And I was working at an electric power station, so you had these pylons and that possibly is what helped. But I actually spoke quite clearly to a guy in the Canary Islands, and he was just stunned that I was
Yeah.
contacting him on a handheld from Ireland, you know.
Well, I used to have an illegal burner on my CB, but I could only use it on a night, Sam, because if I used it in the evening, as soon as I keyed up my CB, I blanked everybody's telly out in the area, and my dad used to go ballistic, so I could only do it like the early hours. But I used to, quite often go continental on a night with a signal. But what you found out about these stations by googling them, Andy? What's it saying?
Just that apparently they were using them as a code that couldn't be cracked back in Cold War era.
Yeah.
And a guy got caught out by actually just what you've just been explaining there. He powered somebody's apartment down by tapping into one of them, and they arrested him. He was a spy. Yeah.
Well, when you think about it, spying is still going on, you know.
Yep. Spying something that'll that'll never finish if we're honest. Even you'll have to excuse me looking down. I'm just rolling me a quick ciggy. Even countries at peace still spy on one another.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So peacetime don't mean stop it. What's it in stops. Right, Joanne says, Andy.
I'm just ready.
Andy, how would you react if the Fae told you that the offering of chocolate wasn't enough, and they needed you instead? Would you agree to their terms?
Right, that's just too vague. What do they need? What would you mean that by they need me instead? What to eat? To do unspeakable acts to?
So basically, what if the King of the Fairies says he wanted to Roger you on a weekly basis?
Gee.
I think I'd be closing my channel down.
You'd be on Pornhub then. Elf porn.
Elf
Doing
porn.
very well. Doing very well. If it meant to go to their realm, never to come back, to just live and be amongst them, then yeah, cool. I couldn't deal with that.
See, I'd have to have the stipulation of how much time would pass before I come back. Because what if you went to visit them, come back, and the world had ended? You'd have been extremely loud. You'd have to go back to being Rogered by the King of the Fairies.
This is it.
They needed your soul, Andy. Oh, that's an interesting one.
Well, they've already got it. And that's an even more interesting one. It's already been contracted.
I can't believe Sam said she'd go through the portal. I asked Sam last time. She said she'd go through.
Yeah. Somebody's mentioned there about depending on a horizontal and vertical antenna. To actually listen in on the what do you call it? The space station. Do you know the space station and that?
The International Space Station.
International Space Station. Apparently there is a frequency. I was given it and I lost it. But I was told to have a vertical antenna to listen in on that. And when you can look up on Google where the station is around the planet at that particular time, and when it's passing over Ireland, to turn on to that particular frequency and that. But the antenna has to be vertical, or it has to be horizontal. Sorry.
All right. Are there any ones still going, Sam, that you can tune into now, or are they still just totally random when they appear? Because I know some of them were more regular than others, weren't they?
Yeah, I'm sort of just getting back into it now, so I'm just only sort of a lot of the time I'm sort of lost in it now, so I'm just exploring it now, like. But you can get a lot of these frequencies on those cheap Bofang radios, and I mean, like, these here were only £13, but you have to set them up when you get them into this country, and as well as that, you have to go through a license to broadcast and that. But it's not illegal to listen,
Yeah.
But it's part of my.
I was talking about the number stations. Are there any of them on a set frequency that are still actually operating at the moment?
I haven't looked recently, but I did pick a station up a couple of months ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't actually make note of the frequency at the time.
And was it broadcasting just numbers?
Yeah.
It might be interesting to see if I can get a recording of one, Andy, and then we can play it on the channel one of the nights.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, if I do come across it, I will go live.
Yeah.
And the government might come knocking on my door. I don't know.
Oh well.
Chris said I tried the station 66.6 and it was a high pitched tone, getting higher and higher. I shit myself.
Yeah, I'm starting to explore these other frequencies rather than just looking down the realms of multiple frequencies what we normally use with a spirit box, and where we have a constant scan and a number of different frequencies to make up the voices and that. So I'm looking into single bands as well.
All right.
You know, we wouldn't be fully doing our research if we didn't explore those different
Yeah.
frequencies as well. Like, you know.
Oh, Andy, you got another question off Joe. What do the
Have,
Fae think of life on other planets?
they said there ain't none.
They're biased, though, Joe. I'll tell you now, they're biased to planet Earth. But I know these number stations, the recordings I've heard, Andy.
Yeah.
They've been male and female, and you know, like the old style BBC broadcasts where they were very proper and precise.
Yeah.
A lot of them have sounded like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it said on that site as well that were like a creepy kid voice doing some as well.
Yeah, there's varying ones.
Yeah,
Varying
yeah.
ones. But that there's that other one that's doing the round that did the rounds on YouTube. What's that? Insecticado, is it? What I can never pronounce it right. That was doing something very similar for a long time, wasn't it? And apparently it was some kind of puzzle that nobody's ever been able to solve.
All right.
And they've never. I can't remember what it's cicada or. It is cicada, in it. They call that them bloody beetles that swarm all of a sudden every so many years. And that was like the internet version of the number stations. Except it was giving like clues out to a puzzle, but nobody's ever been able to solve it yet.
The strange thing about it is, you know, in the days of the CB, you know, we've done little games like, you know, we're talking to each other, we're talking to strangers and that, and you know, you'll have these guys going around in a car with a CB mounted and the aerial mounted to the top of the car, and they'd have an SDR meter.
Mm-hmm.
Tracking the signal, and they could actually pinpoint right where my house was.
Yeah, I've done it. I've done it. I used to
You
do it.
know, and you think, you know, with the advancements in the technology, when you think that some of these signals could be tracked, you know.
Do you know? Here's a question for you and Andy. Knowing what we know about ITC now, do you think we ever had conversations with other than what we thought were real people on the CB? You know, because you'd occasionally on the CB hear these voices in the background, and you'd just presume that, you know, they were just weak CB signals. It does make you wonder now if they were acting like a spirit box.
Yeah,
It's possible, very possible.
Because honestly, Andy, a lot of the time, especially on a night, you know, if you were on a night and the airwaves were clearer, you'd occasionally switch on, and you can't, you know, anybody who's in the chat who's used CBs will tell you, you'd occasionally hear these very quiet voices underneath talking and stuff. It does make you wonder now if it was, you know, if they were working like a spirit box at the time.
Well, sometimes even with the two-way communication between two people, you know, if somebody butted in, you would hear the squelch. Yes, you would hear these whispers in the background. Without the squelch, there was no there was no butt in from another a CB unit as such.
Yeah.
You would hear these voices between me and the communicator on the other side that was speaking. Yet there was these voices coming in, but no squelches when you press the button on the side, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of strange that way, you know?
Oh God, we're discussing CB aerials now. We're all reminiscing. I started off with a dipole, and then I had a big 3-leg thing that went up on the roof. I was surprised my dad agreed to let me have it, but he even fitted it for me and the brackets on a big scaffolding pole on the. It was right above the roof, but he weren't happy when I started it. I got an illegal, what they called a burner at the time. It boosted the signal, and if I switched the burner on and keyed up, it literally took everybody's TV picture off in the street, so I could only use that in the early hours.
Well, my mother used to hate the aerial that I had. It was. I can't remember how high it was, but it was twice as high the height of the house.
Yeah.
And she used to absolutely hate it. And she was actually feared that we were going to get hit by lightning, you know?
Yeah, that was what my dad asked me at first, you know, and we're going to get struck by lightning, and I'm like, no. But I had a Cobra 148, so that was AM, FM and sidebands. That was actually an illegal rig at the time. But, you know, I don't care. And I dare tell my dad it was an illegal rig, he was none the wiser.
Yeah.
I think my very first one was a Little Midland, but it was amazing how many times you did used to get these like ghostly voices on them, Andy. Did you ever do CB?
No.
It was quite interesting how many times you did get these like disembodied voices come through, but you know, I just used to put it down to stray signals and stuff, but looking back on it now, it does make you wonder.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I'm starting to explore these radio bands again, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You know, to look into it a little bit further than just, you know, multiple frequencies through a hacked radio, you know? You know, especially some of us that look into, you know, shortwave bands and stuff like that, you know?
Maureen says, I used to be out all night sometimes talking on the CB in my car, lol. You sure it was just talking on the CB, Maureen? I used to love my Cobra.
Yeah, it was like early Facebook, you know?
Yeah, it was. It was the CB radio was very much like early Facebook. I had the GPO and police round my house about my sidebander. There was a lot of regulation surrounding it when it first came out. They're hard to get hold of now, in they're not as popular over here anymore. It's a shame because, you know, there used to be some real good communities on the CB.
Yeah,
and it was like early Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah, there is a kind of an equivalent now, and it's called Zello, and basically it's an app on your phone, and you can talk like a CB, but it's actually legal. It's illegal, and it's through the telephone network, which means it doesn't matter. Distance is no object, you know.
Yeah.
It's not radio signal; it's internet signal, you know.
Yeah. That's right. I'm just typing to Jackie. So, are you getting on with them pedals on your new spirit box, Sam?
Yeah, I'm running into a few problems though, you know, and I suppose it's all about settings and that, but I find the noise gate is cutting out low tones, which, you know, most of my responses are coming from low tones. So I'm thinking that, you know, the noise gate could be a little bit of a problem there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as well as that, the reverb can make the sound more, you know, it can clarify the sound an awful lot more. But if you overuse it, you can muddy up the sound big time, you know.
Yeah. Have you done any spirit boxes lately, Andy?
No, I haven't. I ain't done one for quite a fair whack of time.
I've done a couple. Actually, it's just reminded me I need to change the batteries in my PSP 7. But I did a couple here when. Hi, Nikki. When I first moved in, and you know the signal's a lot better here than the old house. I ain't getting that horrible feedback here.
Right.
That's all gone, and I've noticed my mobile phone works better here as well.
Oh, that's good.
My mobile phone ain't cutting out like it was at the old house. Have you got? When's your Sharon Rectory investigation, Sam?
It's at the beginning of next month, and I just Rachel got a message, and it's going to be an overnighter. Unfortunately, because of the pain that I go through, I won't be staying overnight.
Mhm.
But Rachel will be carrying on my behalf, and I'll leave her some equipment. So when I leave, we were actually speaking about it today. When I leave, we are either going to put on a live stream, or we're going to have cameras recording throughout the night. So we're going to have an awful lot more footage than we had initially, you know.
Mhm. Have you got anything coming up, Andy?
No, I haven't.
We've been trying to get to Wentworth and the local cemeteries the last 2 weekends, and both times we've had storms coming. We had bloody Storm Kiara or whatever it was called, and then Dennis.
And Dennis, aye.
So, so the last 2 weeks. Well, it's been over a month. We've been trying to get out, me and Jace, to these cemeteries, and
We've got another little storm coming as well this
yeah,
weekend.
I know. Every time we've tried to arrange to go, we've had one of these bloody storms. Because Jace is desperate to get out and do one. He's really looking forward to one.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting out myself, but I'm sort of changing. I'm starting to sort of thinking of changing the way I do things, because I just don't want to be called a ghost hunter anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I never really wanted to be called a ghost hunter, to be honest with you.
Mhm. See, this is why I've said my channel's called Above Paranormal. I want to do more than just ghosts. I want to do the whole spectrum of the paranormal. I want to do things like extraterrestrial stuff and cryptids and
I'm
all that
definitely
kind
up
of
for
stuff.
doing that UFO night in
Yeah,
summer.
that'll be nice in summer, Andy. Especially if we can either get up onto the moors or get onto the Pennines themselves,
Yeah.
or even up to Todmorden if possible.
Did you ever see them cameras? They're a cheap night vision camera, but they've got a telescopic lens on them.
No.
They're kind of a narrow, but a very long lens on it, and it's supposed to be for long distance. And apparently, the camera and this telescopic lens is only about $120.
All right.
Yeah, you don't often see them, but they do come up occasionally. It's not a wide lens like you would normally see it. This kind of it's like a telescope on the end of It's like a telescope on the end of a
Yeah.
camera.
If
Damn.
if I'd got the money, I think the next thing I want to invest in is a 360 camera, because I think they'd be good at certain, like especially somewhere like Roach Abbey. I think a 360 camera would be brilliant. Same with Wombwell Woods. Chris says
Oh, oh
someone did an
yeah.
invest out in the woods. You could see how bad the wind was with the fallen trees. Well, Sam and Andy will tell you that if you're out on an investigation and it's windy, things like spirit boxes and stuff go out the window, because you just cannot get the audio decent enough without the constant gusting in.
Yeah, wind is not your friend when you're a video creator or trying to document stuff on a camera. Wind is definitely not your friend.
Yeah,
I refuse to go out if it's over 10 mile an hour wind.
it's pointless in it, Andy. It's
Yeah.
absolute. And then if you get the rain as well, you can't use anything electrical unless you got everything covered in bags, and then you're stuffed. Lee says, "What about UFO night?" What we're planning on doing, we're trying to get all the local teams up here to get out on the moors and do like a multi-paranormal thing, so that we do like UFOs, the Fae, ghosts, and everything all in the one location. But we'd have to either get out on the moors or up into the Pennines, one or the other.
Yeah, the big thing there is light pollution.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to be away from the city, you know.
That's why we want to get up on, the moors would be perfect for it. Because, the Yorkshire, they're eerie at night, ain't they, Andy, the Yorkshire
Oh
moors?
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I hadn't seen true darkness until I went out to the Cooneen Ghost House, which was in the middle of the woods in County Fermanagh.
Hmm.
You know, I'm in a city now, and I'm overlooking a lot of artificial light and that. But when you're way out in the middle of the country and there's nothing around you for miles, the sky is completely different, you know. Yeah, don't have that light pollution in there, you know.
Yeah. But like I say, we've been trying to get to, because I've never done a cemetery investigation on my channel, and I want to get one done. Not that I believe it's going to be any, more haunted than anywhere else, but I just think, it'd be nice to go and do a cemetery investigation just because I ain't done one.
Yeah.
And
I
I want to get to that antique place with Andy as well.
yeah.
But it's just waiting for the weather in it, Andy. It's just that
That's it, isn't it?
shite at the moment. I really cannot wait for spring to come.
Yeah. I'm looking to try and get do EVP stuff with my new parabolic dish, you know.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's going to be interesting. I mean, like I spent a while putting it together and sorting it out and all the rest of it. Like so, you know, that'd be a great addition along with the Tascam to getting really good audio. You know.
Joanne says, "Can you answer my question?" I think I've missed a question of Joanne's.
Uh-oh.
Can you repeat the question, Joanne? Because I can't see it.
Go back up to the last one. See.
I think I only want to know how many times the fire anally raping you, Andy. I think that's all he's interested in. I can't see a question off Joe, can you?
Everyone, do you think this planet will ever end, or will it just go on and on with a new species after us? That's the question.
It'll eventually end. We know that, boss. Physics tells you the planet will finally end. Once our sun finally burns out, that'll be it. It'll expand and swallow us. So we do know at some point in the far distant future, hopefully, this planet is going to end. Andy?
I'm unsure, because I don't know. I'm one of them type of people that I don't believe everything like you just brought up, like physics and stuff like that.
Mm.
Because like there's some stuff that couldn't possibly know, and
Hmm.
it's everything that we know is all what we've been told, but I don't know.
Right. Andy's undecided. I'll
I'm
say yes.
undecided.
Sam?
Um, I think the sun. I mean, the sun is energy for us, and that. And at some stage, that energy is going to diminish at some point. But I mean, like we're not talking about right, and in our lifetime or anything like that. And once the sun, once the thing is, the theory is that energy can be changed but not destroyed. Where does that sun energy go? If it burns out in this, the way the sun works, I don't
Yeah.
know. It could split into, like some planets have split, and like rocks in the atmosphere would split into a number of different rocks, and possibly Earth was made from one of those other planets. You know,
Yeah.
where a meteor maybe hit another planet, and Earth is a small part of another planet that we don't know about, and there could be life on that planet too. But it's all theories.
Hmm. Chris has said, I always thought all you need is maybe a K2, a spirit box, and an EVP to invest. After all you really need is your phone. Because if you think about it, with your phone, you can have your recorder on there, you got your camera on there. If you like apps, you can do your own little ghost box on there. You know, and if you want to go really old school, you don't. You just take yourself and a pencil and paper.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of us go all out for buying all sorts of different bits and pieces of technology. Some that is known in the paranormal and some isn't. But at the end of the day, all you need is yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and even better if you're starting out, not to even document it, because you can concentrate more on listening and calling out and stuff. You can concentrate more rather than have half your concentration on an investigation and other half on the camera.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
So, if do you two think if physics is to be believed, and when the sun finally starts to burn out and it expands into the universe, do you believe if we were far enough advanced we could bugger off into another dimension to escape it? Do you think that's possible, either of you?
Yes,
You do,
I
Andy.
do. I do, yeah. And I think that's what needs to be looked in. I think that's what they're secretly looking into when they're saying that they're trying to get into space. I think it's dimensional, not space.
You think it's inner space rather than outer space?
Yeah.
Sam?
Yeah, I think we can escape this planet, but the question is, you know, is there a place in the whole universe where you know, life can exist?
But that's what I'm
And
saying. Do you think it'll ever be possible for us to escape into an alternate universe, into an alternate reality?
all right, a different dimension.
Yeah.
Um, it may be possible, but I think it's a long way off.
Yeah.
You know, our technology is good, but it's just not that. It's not that advanced yet.
But
Well, what
do
we
you
know
think
about.
we may revert away from technology and do it in a different way? If we go back to more like the nature side of things and the spiritual things, do you think we could get a breakthrough from that? From that area, both? You know, rather than using a technological solution. Because, it's believed the fake can exist in another reality, and they're not exactly highly technological, are they?
Well, that's it, yeah. I think that's what you know what Buddhists are trying to do when they're trying to turn into light bodies.
Yeah.
I think that's what they're trying to achieve.
Hmm. See, the thing is, there's a lot of theories out there. There is, as we evolve, we will eventually reach a mental stage where we don't need a physical body.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
if we can technically eventually evolve into just energy beings, we don't even really need the planet, do we? Let's be honest.
Nope. Physical just gets thrown out the window
Yeah,
entirely.
we could just go anywhere.
Even Jim Carrey said in a recent interview he's trying to explode into a ball of light,
Is that what he
and
said?
he's well on his way. That's what he said.
Mind you, I suppose
Oh,
all you got to do is eat a lot of baked beans and then flick a lighter. You'll explode in a ball of light then. Goldilocks zone, yeah. There have been writings that say we are able to rise in energy and be able to transcend. My dad used to suspend me by my ankles when I was young, Chris. Interesting.
Gee.
I'm trying to work out what that's got to do with the questions about Mars and stuff, though.
oh dear.
Has carried it on with all future boyfriends as well.
When you think about, you know, when you think about technology and you think about advancements and that, we've had a big, massive jump
Hmm.
from the late 90s to now in technology and that.
Yeah,
And we still don't know anything about the paranormal.
yeah. Here's a question for you both. Knowing what you know at what stage we are in the paranormal, in various areas of the paranormal, if we are going to get a breakthrough, where do you think it's going to be first? What area of the paranormal do you think we're most liable to get a breakthrough in? Andy?
Uh, Shit, that's a tough question. You see, I would say on mainstream belief, it'll be ET disclosure,
Right.
but it might not always ultimately be full truth either.
Right. So you think at some point a government or somebody is going to reveal, or that
Um,
or they're just going to appear in the sky one day and land?
yeah, I think it'd be more pushed into it than revealing it. Yeah.
Sam?
Um, it's a hard one because I'm not that broad into the paranormal, looking into UFOs or any of these other parts of it. It mostly has been through most of it is through ITC and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But if I have to look at it in an ITC sort of standpoint, you know, um, we have a lot more technology than we have, and hopefully we can discover more about what the communicators and who the communicators are,
Yeah.
because that technology is advancing so much from the time these ITC researchers were using a white noise generators and what we're using now, which is called in the grand scheme of things broken radios.
Mm-hmm.
And I reckon the breakthrough is a lot simpler than we think, and we just passed it. Because when you think of the multiple frequency scan, that is actually a simple technique.
Yeah.
And some of us way back in the 90s were twiddling around with knobs.
Well, I've been
You
doing that.
know,
I've been doing that long before the 80s, Sam.
yeah.
And long after.
Oh god. Oh, gee.
See, for me, I think it'll either be aliens will just suddenly appear one day, because I do genuinely believe that we are slowly being conditioned to accept that they're out there and they're going to appear. Or I think the other thing possibly will be the discovery or proof of Bigfoot.
Bigfoot.
Hmm.
Interesting.
I think it'll be. I honestly, in my heart of hearts, believe that we will never ever prove life after death.
Nope.
I just think there's some kind of natural mechanism in place to stop that ever happening. Because I think the implications to the living would be catastrophic.
I think closest we'll ever get is them really close to bone reincarnation tales.
Yeah, yeah,
Because in effect, that is life after death.
yeah.
Even if if it be to another proper physical life,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I just think if you think the world over, all these war zones and places where people are starving, if they suddenly realise there's a nicer place to go, they're going to go. And I think I think there's some kind of natural mechanisms in place to stop that ever happening. And I think this is why. I don't know how you two have fared, but if you have ever asked anybody on the spirit box about, you know, can you tell me where you go when you die, or can you tell me, can you definitively say to me there's like they just climb up on you,
Yeah.
and it's like there's some kind of rule there that either prevents them or, so I don't know. It's just a very funny thing. If it seems if ever you press anybody on the spirit box along them lines, it communication just suddenly stops or is diverted in another direction. Welcome back, Gillian. How are they going to prove something that's been chased by guns, lol? Well, that's the thing, Chris. If one gets shot, it'll be proven. On a personal level, I don't approve of the Bigfoot hunters that go out there specifically with the intention of killing one to prove that they exist. I think there's better ways to prove that they're out there than shooting one, because for all we know, they could be an endangered species.
Yeah, when it comes to such things as Bigfoot, which I am a skeptic of, but if you shoot one, just like as if you shot an alien, you're losing an awful lot of information.
Yeah, yeah.
And study. Do you know?
Do you think it would ever be possible for somebody to capture a fae, Andy?
No. No, I don't think they'd allow it.
You think they've got things in place to prevent it?
Yeah.
When I've done a spooky board years ago and I asked, is there heaven, it never answers. See, and the thing with that, Lee, is heaven for different people is different things, isn't it? You know, if you ask two people what their perception of heaven is, you'll probably get two different answers. For me, I think if there is an heaven, I don't think it's an heaven on the Christian level. I think it's more of a personal heaven. I think you'll create it yourself, you know, by what you expect and what you want. You know, I don't believe St. Peter's waiting there with a big long list of your good deeds and your bad deeds, and, you know, saying you're either coming in or you ain't. I do think, you know, your reality after death is what you create. I was just going to say, then who's asking about spirits of the house? I realised it was Streamlabs. I said, as far as I'm aware, there's no spirits in this house. I've been here, you know, nearly a month now, and this house has been lovely and quiet.
I remember being on another stream, and I said hello to everybody, including Streamlabs.
I've never heard a ghost farting on any programme. Well, they've got no bodies, have they? You know, all need of the physical has gone.
Yes, the strange thing is, you know, the physical body requires certain things to function, including erectile function.
We've all heard your functions, Sam.
The bum trump.
Sam's done some really good functions live.
The big thing is, we have communicators through ITC. But if we believe that these orbs are the energy of people that passed on who doesn't have a voice box, the big question is, how do they speak? So are the communicators the spirits of dead people, or are they beings from a different dimension?
But if you think about it, Sam, all speech is sound waves. Sound waves are a form of energy. You know, you don't actually need a mouth to speak if you know how to manipulate sound waves.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
You see what I'm saying? You know, if you're in a state that allows you to manipulate energy, if you're in an energy form yourself, then, you know, as long as you can manipulate sound waves, you can make the human ear hear what you want them to hear. Literally just by manipulating sound waves, because that's all our ear works. You know, it just receives the waves through the air and then transforms it into the sound. Sound isn't actually a physical thing, is it? It's just another form of energy.
Yeah. We're actually very close to seeing energy. through camera technology, which is a good thing. The camera that is actually seeing them is in a scientific stage at the moment, and is an absolutely huge piece of machinery, which a lot of these inventions start off as a massive piece of engineering. Like when you think the first computer was a huge thing, it was the size of a room and that. So in the future, that technology could be made in a miniature form that the general public are going to be able to use. So what are we going to see with these?
See, but the thing is, people always presume that we're speaking to the dead. We have got absolutely no proof whatsoever that we are speaking to dead spirits.
Yeah, and like I said before, we do get communicators saying that they're spirits and ghosts,
Hmm.
but their definition of spirits and ghosts could be completely different to ours.
Yeah.
You know?
See, there's obviously something to it because I'd never get, ghost thing coming through. I don't get it. When I was back in Soul Reaper, we used to get them asking if we were dead.
Hmm.
And I always found that weird. Why would someone think I'm dead? But I like Sam's, as she calls it, the communicators, because I've got some theories on this.
Yeah.
And I think whatever we're speaking to that's present is using a third party to manipulate that sound.
Yeah.
I call them architects, and I think it's like an elemental of programmable frequency.
Hmm.
It's never, obviously, back in old days they wouldn't have known about it, but now we do know about them. We're just not assigning it. That's my theory, anyway.
Yeah. Because if you think about it, we have got absolutely zero proof of what we are actually communicating with.
Yeah,
I do believe we are communicating with some intelligent form of something.
yeah,
But I have reached, after years and years of doing this, I've come to the conclusion now that I have got no more proof now than I did when I started, that everything I have got communication from is from a dead person.
yeah.
You know, for all I know, it could even be an alien out there who's just telling me what it thinks I want to hear.
Exactly.
Um, the thing is, people are the reason why people are doing celebrity spirit box sessions and other things like that. It spans back to the early researchers. Some of the early researchers, claim and have documented the voice of former friends and former researchers.
Hmm.
Annabella Cardoso is one of those people. I cannot remember the name of the researcher, very famous researcher um, in in a foreign country. A lot of these researchers, if we could only translate a lot of the research that's been done, we would have an awful lot more information because a lot of the research around the paranormal is in Italian and French and other languages,
Hmm.
and for some reason a large majority of that information has never been translated into English. Now, we did try to translate some of the stuff from Marcello Bacci, but it was grueling work. It was really, really hard. Like, how do you translate every single thing that Marcello Bacci says was a Italian dictionary?
Yeah.
It, it
Be-
was it was just so time consuming.
yeah. Because, one of the things that has got me thinking lately is, we don't know what we're communicating with. We have to take their word for it. But if you go back to, say, like Victorian times, a lot of the communication was always dead relatives or people close to them or stuff like that. Now we've got the internet and people are aware of far more things going on in the world, and they've got access to such a larger, pool of knowledge. I've also noticed that over the years, what's coming through like spirit boxes and stuff like that has been of a wider spectrum. So it's making me wonder, are whatever it is doing it plucking some of this from our heads?
Yeah.
Is it something that's maybe occurring on a telepathic level? Are they plucking things out of our heads now that we've got more knowledge of, in the Victorian times, you wouldn't know what was going on in America for 6 weeks until the next ship came across the Atlantic. Nowadays, within seconds on the internet, everybody's more knowledgeable about what's going on with the world and what actually occurs with the world. And that, all this so-called spirit contact has expanded from just general messages about dead relatives into all sorts of subjects and topics. And it's like, as our knowledge has expanded, the topics of the communication have expanded as well. And I'm wondering, is some of it coming directly out of our heads?
I think so, because I mean, like, when you think of a lot of these other researchers, they've been researching before the internet. When the internet came along, that's when we got drowned with bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and even more so now, we're surrounded by absolute bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And the general public now is more confused than they ever were about the paranormal, because there's so much, there's so much crap out there.
Yeah. What do you think about that, Andy?
No, yeah. Have you ever put it to test when you're doing a box, like purposely thought of stuff and it come through?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if everybody does it, but I've definitely done it, and it does work.
I've done it on numerous occasions.
Yeah. Only thing I can say is, and I've obviously got to use my own research for this example, but you see, it can still kind of work out the same thing now I'm thinking about it. But like, say if I get gnome come through spirit box,
mm-hmm.
and then I happen to take some random photos and they might look like there's a gnome in background,
mm-hmm.
then I go, possibly, yeah, there were a gnome there.
Yeah.
But who's to say that image ain't being manipulated as well,
Yeah, exactly.
You can't say for sure, but it's a little bit more extra, isn't it, than...
Yeah, it's corroborative evidence.
Yeah.
But this is why I always say, Andy, that there's no such thing as a paranormal expert.
No.
Because, we just don't know. And unless you've got a solid ground to go on, you cannot be an expert in a subject. You can be knowledgeable in a subject, but you're not an expert in it.
Yeah.
Right. Dr. Villain says, I believe the paranormal community and the UFO community has been covered up a lot by the government. There's a lot we don't know what they know. Totally agree with you, Dr. Villain. And I do believe that the government knows a lot more about things on a paranormal level than they're letting on, especially in the terms of things like extraterrestrials, astral travel, stuff like that. I do believe the government have got quite an extensive knowledge on the topics. Gillian's put, in the 70s, my dad had a train crash. Unfortunately, some children died when he was dying. He said that he could hear them calling him and his old Navy friends. What's your opinion on that, Andy, when people call out to dead relatives and stuff when they're dying?
What, like the experience of them, see them and stuff like that? It depends what your belief system is. You see, for me, it's your brain plucking stuff.
Was that Cujo?
No,
that was my job.
Oh, right.
Right. I thought it was one of yours then, Brett.
No, it was mine.
I think it's because they always say at that point of death that your brain gets flooded with endorphins and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think there's a mechanism in place for you to visualise and manifest stuff that'll make you comfortable.
Do you think it's the brain's way of coping with the fact it's dying?
Yeah.
Right. Sam?
I don't know where to go with this one. Can you recap of what you were trying to get through here?
Yeah. When people are dying, they often claim that their relatives are there to fetch them, or they can see relatives, or they start talking to relatives. What's your opinion on that, of what is actually going on? Do you believe they are actually there, or do you believe it's a... I tend to agree with Andy. I think a lot of it is as a result of a dying brain comforting itself, but what's your belief on it?
It could possibly be, and when you think about it too, a lot of people, had been caught up in organized religion, and this organized religion had believed in certain things, and that has been, that information that they believe in is embedded in that brain. And as a Christian myself, I believe in certain things.
Yeah.
But on a scientific level, it doesn't make sense. So that's why I have to completely separate the two things. And it could be possibility of the belief of their religious beliefs. Then again, we don't have the answers.
Exactly.
We don't have the answers to 99.9% of the paranormal questions that goes out there, But then again, there's a possibility. There is that possibility, and there is that hope. And when people hear about things, it is hope for them,
See, with a lot of things, especially in the ghost hunting side of things, I do believe that your belief system and your current frame of mind does play an important part, because a lot of deeply religious people claim seeing saints and angels and stuff like that. People who go out looking for the negative side of things always claim they see demons and all that kind of stuff. Other people go out and claim they see aliens and things, and I do believe your mindset does play an important role in your results of what you get via the paranormal. Andy? No, I'll to Sam first, because Sam will forget the question by the time he's here.
Yeah.
Sam, you go first.
Yeah, I mean, like, when you think of it too, a lot of people, watch the movies and stuff. And, I'm a person, I just do not watch the movies. I don't watch paranormal movies, because those paranormal films are based on a belief that that has got no proof in it at all. The red eyes of the demons, which could be a Ford Focus on the other end of the forest in the dark with the taillights. Or certain reflections of light of animals or whatever. That is one of the reasons. And when I got more into the paranormal, I just made sure that I did not watch paranormal scary movies. Anything to do with horror, the paranormal and that. I don't want that in my brain. Well, as an investigator. And I even stopped watching those paranormal events that reconstructed it in a very entertaining sort of scary way. As far as I'm concerned, and as far as my brain is concerned, none of this exists. And I go into it completely and utterly blank. No matter if I go into a private house and they say, we've been terrorized for years by some sort of a demonic force. In my brain, I'm going to say bullshit. and not that I don't believe them, but I cannot have anything like that influence what I am investigating.
Yep.
And that includes these old time stories that were passed through word of mouth, and very often went into the pubs and passed around. People that had too much to drink.
Yeah, and then it was Chinese whispers.
Yeah, you know.
Andy, what's your opinion?
This is quite a difficult one for me because I can't say we are my mindset doing, when we started out or on fairies, because it really weren't. We were working with something that had made itself known on many occasions, different communication devices, and with what I'd come from, with my team, what I'd come from. I sat down with Becky and Claudia and says, like, everybody is going to say this is a demon pretending to be a child.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was first thing off the bat, and it was that turned me around. It was like, look at this, look at that, and I was so overwhelmed, and my mindset weren't on that, which is really bizarre. It's like I was one that struggled to believe in it.
Yeah.
So it's a bit weird with us. But I'm like Sam just said about, you don't watch horror films and stuff like that, but I still do. I love that sort of stuff, and it still doesn't taint me when I go out. It never has done. I've only once in recent times been freaked out.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm quite comfortable going into somebody's home and in a property and being confident, now, especially with what we do, that I'll be talking to someone that'll actually be quite pleasant.
Yeah.
It's to do with situations where it's been a bit nasty,
Yeah.
And again, perception about what you're dealing with is a big factor. Just because something's knocking or scratching on a door don't automatically make it a negative thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like
and I always say this.
a lot of people portray that, as, oh man, this demon's been scratching in a cupboard or whatever, and it's like, not really, but I don't know.
Right, I'm just going to touch on
Perception.
I'm just going to answer Nikki's question, and then I'm going to touch on something Sam said. Nikki's put, what about near-death experience? Is that just the brain playing tricks as well? See, that's interesting, Nikki, because I had an NDE, and I am in no way religious Christian-wise, and I can honestly say what I encountered during my NDE was in no way religious. So was it my brain just shutting down and inventing? But if it was inventing a strange little story. Because I encountered a really irritating auburn-haired woman who just pestered me. But there was no religious undertones in my NDE whatsoever. So, I'm in two minds on this. Was that my brain just shutting down and comforting me? But if so, why did he invent some irritating woman as my last few minutes? Because she was irritating to the point I actually swore at the woman and told her where to get off. And for, that for me is a funny thing for a brain to comfort itself with. And it would have only been my brain aware because I honestly didn't know I was dying at the time. I'd had my drink spiked and I didn't even realise there was anything wrong. I literally went from playing pool in a room to waking up in the hospital the next morning with the ND in the middle.
Do you know what you was?
Go on.
Do you know what you was spiked with?
Yeah, Southern Comfort.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Is that what it was?
A bottle of Southern Comfort and ecstasy tablets.
Oh, so there were a drug involved then?
Yep.
Right.
Yep. But people say, well, maybe you knew you were dying, but I honestly didn't know I was dying, Andy. My recollection ends with me playing pool in that room, and then my next memory, apart from the bit in the middle with meeting the irritating red-headed woman, was me waking up in the hospital.
Yeah.
You know, I'd got no knowledge that there was anything wrong with me, or an ambulance had been called, or I was in hospital. One minute I'm playing pool, the next minute I'm waking up in an hospital bed. There is no recollection in between, apart from that annoying fucking red-headed bitch who kept telling me to get up and get out of that bed. And to this day, I can remember the anger I had at that woman for keep telling me I'd got to get up and leave, and all I wanted to do was sleep.
Yeah.
You know, but even at the time, I never questioned, hang on a minute, a second ago I was playing pool in a room. There was just no... That never even crossed my mind. It was really weird. But honestly, at that moment, I could have tore that woman's throat out. That was how angry I felt at the time. Because they kept disturbing me, and I just wanted to go to sleep. And she kept saying, you gotta get up and leave. You can't stay. And that was all she kept saying to me. But there was no angels. There was no music. There was no tunnel. There was bright light. You know, I was in a very bright area. I couldn't see the walls, and it was very bright light. But it didn't hurt my eyes or nothing. It was just like being under very bright fluorescent lights. And this desk and the bed and this annoying red-haired fucking woman who just would not shut up and go away. You know, so for me, that is a funny thing for a dying brain to invent. But on the other end, it could have quite easily been more wacky, you know,
Yeah.
the way my wacky head works anyway. You know, I just wanted to annoy myself for that one last time. Right, now I want to go back onto what Sam was saying. Sam touched on watching movies. How much of an influence do you think modern day media has played on the paranormal, and do you think it's been a positive or a negative thing?
I'm just going to say one word.
I'll start with you first this time, Andy.
I'm going to say one word to that: disastrous.
Yeah.
I think it's had such a negative impact. You know, misinformation for entertainment, but a lot of people can't differentiate between entertainment and real life. That's a problem, you know. And I think that's key to it. You know, it's like, for example, the Ouija board thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's highly painted as a negative tool. Highly.
Yeah.
Right. And all you have to do is go and look what they were intended for, you know, how they were used. It's all out there to be researched, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do your own research. Just don't go off what a film tells you, or a religion.
Yeah.
You know.
Exactly. I've always said, Andy, I find it ironic the amount of people who sit there and go, oh, I'll never touch a Ouija board, damn evil, that you're opening a portal to something. And I certainly wouldn't do one on my own. And then in the next breath, I'm going, and now I'm going to do a spirit box.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking you're doing exactly the same thing. You're just using a more technological version of a Ouija board. So why do you find one so unacceptable, and in the very next breath, you're doing it with just a different piece of equipment?
Agreed.
Right, do you want to add anything else to that, Andy, before I ask Sam?
No, go for it, Sam.
Sam? Sam's forgot the question again.
Do you think it was to do with influence?
Yeah, what impact do you think modern day media has had on the paranormal, and do you think it's been a positive or a negative thing?
Oh, modern media. When you think of modern media nowadays, you think of social media and, you know, more and more so YouTube and Facebook and stuff like that. It's been, you know, it hasn't been very good. You know, yes, it's brought out and given more information about some of the people that have done great research. But the people that are popular are the ones that are providing entertainment, but no scientific proof or anything like that. You're not going to see Annabella Cardoso getting 2 or 10 million subscribers. She, the last time I had checked, had under 200 subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
One of the world great ITC researchers.
Mm-hmm.
But on a social media forum, nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
You know, they're still in a little bit of a, you know, they have their circle, and people are not interested in that. They want to get excitement and all the rest of it. They want to be scared. They want excitement. They want to be gripped at the end of their seats. And at the end of the day, that isn't paranormal.
Yeah.
It's entertainment. Yes, some of the paranormal is brought into it, but you have to question yourself, what is truly paranormal? What's going out there to the general public? What is truly paranormal?
Yeah.
Because the ones that went, truly scientific, it's boring for media.
Yeah. Yeah.
People don't give a shit.
But do you think people's perceptions of things like horror movies and series like Supernatural and stuff like that have actually tainted people's views on the paranormal and what they expect of the paranormal?
Oh yeah, big time. Oh, when you think of it, some certain so-called researcher that's making, spirit boxes for between $2,000 and $4,000 has over a million subscribers. And there's people out there. Oh, teach us more, teach us your ways. You read the comments. People are believing a lot of this stuff and are actually, in a way, some of these people are so desperate to believe that they will believe anything at this point, and the truth is lost within all that. And that's the sad thing about it,
Yeah.
They still don't believe me.
Well, as order of magnitude says, if you're a paranormal channel, consider yourself lucky if you get 4,000 subscribers by sticking with the truth.
Do you both think, as paranormal investigators, we should have more of a moral obligation to the people who watch our channels? Because we deal with a lot of people who are grieving and they come to these kind of channels to seek comfort. Do you think we have a moral obligation to those people?
I truly believe that depends if it's lying for comfort or not, because I can't be untrue to myself while I'm telling my opinions. I would never go back on what I believe just to comfort somebody else.
No, I don't mean that, Andy. I mean, do you think we should police ourselves more against those who deliberately prey on people's grief? Do you think we've got a moral obligation to point this out?
Oh yeah, definitely, like name and shaming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Sam?
Yeah, well, I try to stay out of drama, but I have been known to call out a certain person, a few times, and I've wanted to stay out of it, and it bugged me so much that I made a video, because I've seen a video that they've uploaded with these really big claims and narcissistic behavior. And the reason why I call these people out is because I need people to know that I don't support this kind of behavior. Do you know?
Yeah.
And, at the end of the day, there is a lot of people, and, there's a million people watching this guy at this moment in time, and a lot of them, they're desperate. Can you do a spirit box session and call out for my grandmother or my mother that I was close to or whatever, or my husband or wife or whatever? They're desperate to, and they will go to, they'll go to anywhere to get that kind of relief in that. And this person it comes across, because he pulls this God card, that he's the one with all the answers, and he has to be a good person because he talks about God and John the Baptist and Michael the Archangel, John the Baptist.
Yeah, I was laughing my head off when you did that video of that.
Yeah, now you know I don't script my videos. Do you know? There's people would make comments. Do you know? Can you do a spirit box session? And because I lost my husband a number of months ago, can you do a spirit box session and see will he come up? His name is so and so. I've had a few of those, and I basically say, do you believe in God? If they say yes, all you can do is pray to them, because when I turn on a spirit box, I don't know what I'm communicating with. And I would be lying to you if I went and tried, when I don't believe that I can, I can call out a person. I can call out a person. I've done it before, and that name has come true. But as we know, you have to be very, very careful in calling out names, because those communicators, whatever they are, have a habit of copying us. Do you know? And people automatically think that is communication from that person, that dead relative or whatever. But if you say a certain name a number of times, for some reason, those communicators will repeat that name. Do you know? But I just believe in being honest.
Yep.
I just believe.
See, I have got a big problem with people lying to people for personal gain in the paranormal. If you get somebody coming to you and they say, I've recently lost an husband, a wife, a child, a family member, and then you deliberately sit there and tell them a load of bullshit, one, just to make them feel better, and two, to possibly profit from it personally in some way, I do think these people deserve to get called out for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't think you should be. I don't think you should lie to people necessarily to protect the feelings. Like, I did a card reading the other week that got a bit uncomfortable for me, because it was somebody who had never been on the channel before. They were obviously a random coming in for a card reader, and I was basically getting off the cards that either him or his wife was having an effect. Can you remember?
Oh, I remember.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there thinking, how do I put this in a way that I can tell you what I'm feeling, these cards I'm telling me. And in the end, I just thought, sod it, and said, one of you ain't being truthful here. And I did actually say it, but I would never go to somebody if they, they asked me for a reading and they mentioned somebody had died. I would then not, find some way to wind them in the card reading just to make that person feel better. Because for me, I think that's morally wrong. I think I'd then be preying on their grief. One, to make them feel better. Two, to make me look good, and know all along that it was total bullshit. I do think we do have a moral obligation to people, to be honest, regarding the paranormal.
Well, I consider my research and what I do is not researching the afterlife as such. I'm researching the paranormal, because as the older researchers, they call them communicators. We don't know who they are, so I just don't bring dead loved ones into this.
Yeah.
And I make it quite clear with some of these people that this is not what I do.
Yeah.
They are looking for, a lot of these people are so desperate to be comforted that sometimes they go to the wrong places, and it's not intentional. I mean, there's a lot of charlatans out there, and it's very hard to know who's honest and who isn't. So I try not to bring any of that into it. But I will be honest with people, especially when you have subscribers who support you, and that you don't want to bullshit them either, like
Yeah.
you know.
And we are in a field where there is people. No, it ain't Specsavers, Jill. It's just bad typing. Um, we are in a field where you are dealing with a lot of people with grief. And sometimes you got to be cruel to be kind, and I think that resorts to the point where you shouldn't lie to people just to make them feel better. And there again, neither should you lie to people just for personal gain either. And I do think that at the moment, the paranormal community on an whole is there's a lot of people out there in this community currently who are more concerned with their own benefit than actually the benefit of the paranormal. And I do genuinely believe that.
Oh yeah.
Andy?
Yeah, definitely. It's quite clearly obvious that a lot of them are like that. Yeah. All you have to do is open your eyes to see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Innit?
Chris says I deal with loss alone and in my personal space, so I don't say or condone anything other than what I believe. Exactly, Chris. I do believe you've got to stay true to yourself, and I do believe we do have a moral obligation to people, but that doesn't mean we should lie to people just to make them feel better, and neither should we lie to people to make us look better. Chris said, I see my nan and granddad in my dreams and thankful for that. Need no comforting, I'm okay with life. That's good, Chris.
Yeah.
Gillian, sorry to say it like that, Nikki, but I hope you understand what I meant. Yeah, I'll totally understand what you meant to Nikki then, Gillian. I do believe some people do get to the point where they want it so much they will accept anything off anybody. And that's not necessarily a bad thing on them, but grief grief affects people, in strange ways. Even the most rational of people lose all sense of rationality when they're experiencing grief. Jackie says, I said something to someone years ago in a reading. They came back years later and said, you said this. I know I didn't say that. It was their mind fitting their own narrative. I don't do it anymore. This is the problem, Jackie. People hear what they want to hear. They really do.
I mean, like, my own circumstance, I lost a dear friend and that, and every so often I miss that person.
Hmm.
And, I tried everything to contact that person, and I can't say that I ever had anything through the spirit box. I had a hand put on my shoulder one night.
Hmm.
I've had a couple of things happen in the house, but I can't say that it was that person coming through. I just don't know.
Yeah. I've been discussing this recently because I lost three brothers and sisters at a very early age. And it has never, all the time I've done this, Sam and Andy, I have never once considered even, trying to contact them.
Yeah.
And thinking about it now, that's probably really odd. But not once have I deliberately made the effort to sit down and think, oh, I'm going to try and contact Craig Allison and Paul now.
Yeah.
It's never once occurred to me. And I suppose that's really odd considering the amount of time I've been doing it. But it has never once crossed my mind to try and contact them.
But then you've got shoe on opposite foot as well. Have they ever called their names out to you, trying to contact you?
No.
So it's like, because obviously it's a mutual partnership when you're
Mhm.
bridging contact, isn't it?
Yeah.
Both parties have got to be willing.
Yeah.
So,
It's ain't that I ain't
so,
willing. It's just it's never crossed my mind to do it.
well,
If they
Yeah.
came through, I'd be happy to talk to them. But I've never physically gone out my way to do it.
yeah.
It's never
But
even
they
occurred
might,
to me to do
you
it.
know, in your beliefs, but you believe in human spirit and afterlife and whatever.
Mhm.
They might need to see that want from you
Yeah.
before they bridge of contact as well. You know,
You know,
I don't know.
I'll think, maybe it's the fact that, they know what my beliefs are, and I know that they've moved on,
Yeah,
from this life. So, they've no need to contact me and go, yeah, we're okay. Because they know
yeah,
my
yeah,
belief system, I know that they're okay.
yeah.
Do you know what I was thinking? You know these celebrity spirit box sessions, right? Now just forget that they're celebrities altogether, right?
Hmm.
There's people trying to contact these people that used to live in a completely different country,
Hmm.
and at that moment in time, that person that passed away could be mentioned by somebody else on the other side of the world. I never got my head around how does that work.
Say that again. I don't get that. Did you get that, Andy?
Right.
Yeah, I think I got it.
Go on, say it
I,
again,
I,
Sam. I'm
I,
having a
I,
blonde moment.
You know, celebrities, right? You think
Yeah.
of these celebrity spirit box sessions,
Yeah.
like Michael Jackson or whatever,
Hmm.
who lives in America, and
Yeah.
then you have these people in other countries doing a spirit box session. Now, do you think that just for a moment, just don't even think that they're celebrities. They're ordinary people,
Yeah.
and in the spirit world, if we believe in the faith, we're all equal in the eyes of God, right?
Hmm.
How does the contact happen if that person used to live in America and we're in the UK and Ireland?
Hmm.
How is that person supposed to come true if they used to live in America? I this distance thing, and
See,
people.
see, see, I believe when you pass on and you become energy, anything physical is no longer of relevance. Energy can literally be where it wants to instantaneously. And they've proved this with the molecules that they say can be billions of miles apart, and what happens to one occurs to the other. I
Oh,
think I think distance and stuff is no longer of relevance once you pass out of the physical realm and into the energy one.
right.
Andy,
Yeah, I always wondered that.
Andy,
yeah,
what do you think?
yeah. I'm exactly the same. It's,
I think all physical is irrelevant once you've gone,
yeah,
and that I think that'd be anything with anything on an energy level, any type of energy based being. I don't think physical distance would be a problem to them. The only
yeah.
thing
'Cause, I mean,
the only argument I've got with it, Sam, is if somebody's just passed over, one, they're probably going to be confused and frightened, because it's happened to, they don't know what's happened. And two, why would they want to be talking to some complete stranger? Because I'm pretty certain 99.9% of anyone finding themselves in that situation would want to contact loved ones and friends first. They'd be foremost in the mind. You
Yeah,
know,
they they
why would Michael Jackson want to go and talk to some bald bloke in Florida or wherever they've never met and never heard of? Let's be honest. Andy?
uh, I could try and be right diplomatic on this,
Well,
and
go on.
right. So let's say Steve Huff is what he right. So for talking sake now, Steve Huff is exactly what he says he is.
Mm-hmm.
Right. He is a gateway person. And
Mm-hmm.
some people believe in this, that there's
Yeah.
only so many types of people that can actually communicate with
Mm-hmm.
energy beings. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens if via their visual
Mm-hmm.
there's so many lit up light balls of people
Yeah.
that can potentially
Mm-hmm.
communicate with that energy?
Right.
And just so happens he's turned something on that's allowing him to do it.
Right.
That energy would be drawn to that person because it's allowing
Mm-hmm.
a channel open.
Yeah, you're basically describing what a medium claims they do on the spirit realm. That
Yeah,
they literally light up.
yeah,
They're like a
but
beacon. But that, of all these people in the world who have got this ability, why are they all homing in on Steve Huff?
Because he's got that many crosses that they're just attracted to him.
Is that what it is? Is he using an 100-watt bulb while everybody else is on a 60?
Yes.
So he's a bit more noticeable than anybody else.
Yeah.
But my thing is, my argument is, and I do believe if a spirit wants to contact somebody, I think if anybody wants to get a message through to you, they can. In one form or another, they will, even if it means just knocking somewhere else in your house. I think if something wants to contact you, it can do it. It doesn't need to go to Off Paranormal to tell the world their story. And especially if you're a celebrity. Why are you going to go to some complete bloody stranger you've never even heard of? You're going to go straight, and that applies to anybody. You're going to make a beeline for your loved ones. You're not going to go to some person with a dubious past and let's be honest, has got a very dubious present. You're not going to be going to them to validify your existence, are you? Let's be honest here. Sam?
Well, the other side of this, when you think of Steve Huff and his high claims and all the rest of it, people have been trying to disprove Marcello Bacci for years and pretty much failed.
But
he had gatherings.
The difference is, Sam, did Bocelli ever claim he was talking to John the Baptist and Jesus Christ?
No.
See, this is where the lines have got to be drawn.
No.
This guy is claiming he's talking to religious figures.
No.
He's like a modern day Joan of Arc to hear him talk.
But then again, there was weekly gatherings in the local town hall where people have lost loved ones and gathered to get communication from loved ones. And those people in the audience, when they heard the voice coming through the radio, they burst out crying and said, "That is definitely my son that I lost in the war, or my husband, or whatever."
Okay, now, playing devil's advocate here, right? Do you believe, though, that could also be grief driving that to the point that they convince themselves it's their voice?
There's a possibility, but then again, there was independent people who actually removed the valves of that radio, and that radio still burst into action, like. So
I'm not denying that the communication was going on, but as investigators, we have got to look at both sides of the coin here, and there is a very large possibility that these people are so desperate to contact a loved one that they convince themselves that the voice sounds like their loved one.
Oh, very often, yeah.
We have got to look at both sides of it. I ain't saying it weren't them.
Yeah.
But you have got to consider the fact that this could be a psychological thing going on. Because what was interesting, I was reading a study earlier on from the British Psychological Association, and everybody on here is going to hate me for this, but they have done a study and they have proven that people who believe in the paranormal and believe in the afterlife and are superstitious are actually more prone to pareidolia on a psychological level than people who don't. And it has now been proven in a study.
Yeah.
So it does prove that people want to see things. People who believe in it are more predispositioned to see things that aren't there. So, we have got to take these kind of things into... Who we on about, Brett? I lost the question. We have got to take that into... No, we were talking about Steve Huff, Chris, not Mark Smith. Unless Mark Smith has recently been talking to John the Baptist and Jesus Christ, ain't you? Not that I'm aware of.
Sam, what is the man's name? I think
It's,
you're
it's
referring
Steve.
to.
It's Steve Off. You're allowed to say it on here. I don't care.
The question is, Sam, what is the man's name? Possibly you're talking about Marcello Bacci. He's an Italian-born ITC researcher who had been filmed communicating with so-called people's loved ones of the local community through an old-fashioned radio. And in fact, I have one of those radios up above my head here, and I actually got it taken. I actually got it in from Italy, and it was an old valve radio. Now, there's a possibility that the person that was operating the radio, Marcello Bacci, had some sort of gift. And in that way, that would be the paranormal, rather than just the piece of equipment. At the end of the day, the piece of equipment is just a radio.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so there has been stories of people with extraordinary gifts around the world.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
You know, and even if you look outside the spiritual and religious, you know, Padre Pio was one of those people that increased faith in my parents' generation, because that was what was happening to him was pretty spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
And you know, I've looked at those documentaries, but I looked at them as a paranormal investigator rather than a person of faith. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, because what I was reading on that study earlier on was rather interesting, because it made me laugh, because I subscribed to the Most Haunted page on Facebook to see what sort of blurb was coming off there. And the amount of pictures you get on there, which are just like smeary windows and stuff, is hilarious. But there was one the other day, and it was basically a picture. Somebody took a picture of a bridge because the river was high, you know, and it was obvious the river was getting to the point it was going to burst the banks. And there was two parts of the bridge where you could actually see the holes where the water drains off the road down the side of the bridge into the river. So there's two wet patches on the bridge, and it was clearly obvious it was two wet patches on the bridge. And the amount of people who were sitting on there, armchair mediums, going, I sense this two people whom standing there watching the river because I'm frightened it's going to burst its banks and flood. And everybody, you know, there was a couple on there who put, you know, you can blatantly see it's two patches of wet brick coming out of the drain. And this one was adamant that it was these two guardian spirits of the bridge who were appearing, and they were actually on the side of the bridge level with the water, so they were doing a Jesus and walking on the water if they were. It was blatantly obvious they were two bloody draining points on the bridge. You could even see the drain holes where the water was coming out, and in the end I just put, some people on here really need to go back to medium school.
Pareidolia is a powerful thing.
Yep. But it was really interesting, that study I read today. And it says that people who are superstitious or who have a strong interest in the paranormal are more prone to see patterns in random images than people who don't believe in the paranormal. So basically they're saying us lot are more prone to pareidolia. Now to me, I would say, for me, it's the exact opposite. Because I now look for things and think, now that ain't what people think it is. But well, if you go on the Most Haunted Facebook page, you'll see it in action. The amount of people who see things like wet bricks as two guardian spirits protecting the river and stuff, it was laughable.
Well, there's two ways of looking at it. You have a group of paranormal investigators that are going to go into this abandoned building looking for ghosts. Mm-hmm. If that is going through their head as a priority, I hope we find ghosts tonight. Mm-hmm. There's a big probability that they're going to jump to conclusions at some point.
Yeah.
But if you go into a paranormal investigation and say, this is probably going to be a waste of fucking time, but we're going to go in and try anyway. Mm-hmm. you're less likely to be influenced by that pareidolia, like.
Yeah. Yeah.
With a skeptic kind of mind, and I actually am a lot, skeptic in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know?
Yeah.
You sort of have to. You sort of have to police yourself. Do you
Yeah,
know?
that's my argument. Right.
And
Now
not jump to
I'm gonna
conclusions.
extend on this now, Sam, and ask you and Andy this question. Do you believe the frame of mind you approach an investigation with can have an impact on the results you get? So, like, if you take a total skeptic and disbeliever into an investigation with you, do you think they could negatively impact on what evidence you get there, solely based on their mindset? Andy,
It's very variable, but I would say yes.
right?
I've been proven wrong on this because, like, I've gone into places where I thought, there's no going to happen here, and things can,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
it's been big things, what are really in your face.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've gone into places where I think this is going to be absolutely heaving reactivity, and there's been not.
Mm-hmm. But
So
there again, on your level, you know that it can possibly happen. So even though you're
well,
thinking, oh, it's going to
yeah,
happen here, you've still got that belief underlying, ain't you, that it could.
well, yeah, but you know, um,
But do you believe like a complete? I'll give you a good example. Gary
go
J
on.
off Curiosity. I don't know if you've ever
Mhm.
watched his channel. He's a diehard skeptic and he never has anything happen. Do you
Right.
think that's because of he is so skeptical that he's convinced nothing is ever going to happen? He genuinely does believe that there ain't ghosts and shit there.
Probably so, but still, there's it's tough.
Yeah. Sam?
That is a tough one because when you go into a paranormal investigation, your job is to try to get as much information as you possibly can, and in that way you have to call out and you have to. And if there is spirits there, you have to be welcoming to them. So you have to be nice.
Yeah.
But, it's very, very hard. If you had an investigator and went in and says, this is all bullshit,
Yeah.
it doesn't, to me, it wouldn't help the investigation. Even though it's all based on theory, but if there's a possibility that there's spirits watching us and listening to us, that certainly isn't going to help.
Mm-hmm. Here's an interesting one for you both. Do you think it's possible that in certain situations the investigators themselves are creating things? And I don't mean
Yes.
deliberately. I mean on a mental level or something. That they are reaching the point where their belief is so strong they are physically manifesting something. Do you believe that's
Yes.
possible? Yeah.
Yes.
Sam?
I'm not 100% sure of that. When you look into the cases of poltergeist activity,
Mm-hmm.
very often you do have one child that's a little bit hyperactive, and very often the blame is on that child. When you have
Yeah.
some of them famous cases of
Yeah.
poltergeist activity, there has been a link to one of the children or one of the members of the house causing this. So, it's hard to know. It's hard to know. Then again, if you believe the power of the mind, and these, what do you call it, telekinesis and that,
Yeah.
which, you know, I can't say yes or no. I can't, you know, I'm a skeptic of a lot of things until I see
Yeah.
it for
That
for
funny enough,
myself.
telekinesis was another thing the government was investigating during the Cold War.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to say it's bullshit, like, but you know, I'm not. You know, I'm not gonna throw it completely out the window, but you
Hmm.
know, I'm more willing, I'm more sort of open to believing something when I see it firsthand,
Yeah.
rather than taking somebody's word for it.
Hmm.
You know. My seat decided to fall down again. That's when it happens when you buy a cheap seat.
Right. Here's another one for the two of you. You've both been in the paranormal a fair while now. Do you think it's made you more of a believer, or do you think it's made you more of a skeptical person? Andy?
I'm gonna say both.
And that was exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, I'm very muchly both. I've become more believer in certain subjects and very much skeptical in others.
Yep, I was going to
So
say exactly
yeah,
the same thing.
yeah.
Sam?
Yeah, I'm going to say exactly the same thing as well. I mean, like I witnessed my seat has fallen down again. I have seen stuff and heard stuff that I thought was not possible.
Hmm.
Yes, because we have this social media, we've got this internet and stuff like that. Do you know these haunted dolls that put curses on people and stuff? And they've done it in the past, but they're not doing it today for some reason.
Hmm.
Yet they're famous haunted dolls like Robert and all these kind of things. I'm a skeptic along that line,
Hmm.
but my own personal experiences and EVP communications,
Yeah.
you know, and that drives us. When we
Hmm.
get that little bit, we want more and more and more. So very much a believer and very much a skeptic on certain subjects around the paranormal.
Right. I'm just watching the chat now, so I'm going to put you both on the spot now. What's both your opinions on Zach Bagan?
Oh god. Granddaddy bullshitter.
Yep. Yep.
He's got a lot to answer for with
Hmm.
the YouTube paranormal community.
Yep. Yep. I think ghost benches has been one of the worst things to happen to the paranormal
Yeah,
in recent years, and particularly Zach Bagans himself,
yeah.
because I think the guy is in it totally for the fame and the money. Sam?
I think in the beginning they started off, you know, they had good intentions in the beginning, but it turned into a media company and the money came in. I mean, like when they started out, Zach was living in a haunted apartment, and now look what he's got. But you know, I mean, like the ladies love him and all the rest of it. But when you pay more closer attention, and people often miss this, the personality isn't very good. So very often he's bossy. He's telling people to do this, do that, and all the rest of it.
Hmm.
And his personality came out when he done the live. You know the live thing in his haunted museum,
Yeah.
the Halloween before last.
Hmm.
His personality came out there where he started get bossing people around, and he was under pressure because this rabbi came in and kind of screwed things up for him, and his personality started to slip out there.
Hmm.
But but at a paranormal level, he's very quick to jump to conclusions,
Yeah.
whether he believes or he's doing that to hype up viewership. But when you get caught up in a media company like that, you have to be a magnet for viewers. Otherwise, that business is going to fail.
Yeah.
You know, and in a way, it can't. Sometimes sometimes you can't really mix up the two. You know, entertainment and paranormal. You know, if you put entertainment with the paranormal, you know, some people aren't going to take it seriously. But I think Zach Bagans jumps to conclusions an awful lot.
Yeah.
On camera, whether he does it off camera is another completely different story. I know his passion is the paranormal. Otherwise, he wouldn't have this museum. He's got that interest there. But the thing is, now he has an interest, a business interest in this media company. You know, and that's where the problems lie. You know.
Yeah. I thought of a question then, and I forgot it now, and it was a good question. Oh, it's gone right out my head, and it was a really good question. Shit.
Sorry, I tend to go on a little bit.
No, it's all right. It's all right. I was thinking I'll ask that. It was something you were just talking about. I thought I'll ask that next, and now it's gone totally out my head. Oh, that was it. I've remembered it. Do you think a lot of people in the paranormal nowadays are too quick to jump to a paranormal explanation? Andy?
I don't know. I don't know. There's that many different levels to how people do the stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, I've worked with a lot of people, a lot of different style of people, and you know, you the range of it is so massively different. You've got them people that, you know, something will be happening and they totally disregard it and be like, oh, I'd rather talk to people on my live stream. You know, you've got them style of people that you watch the videos and then you meet them in real life and they don't do nothing like they would do if they were on their own.
Yeah.
You know, and they seem to get nothing happening around them. You'll sit and monitor and watch what they do when there's nothing. You know.
Now, but I'm saying, when something happens, do you think generally nowadays people are too quick to jump to the paranormal response rather than eliminate all the natural stuff first? You know, because you watch a lot of these channels now, they hear a twig snap and straight away there's demons coming.
Well,
you know, they don't think them in the middle of a bloody wood and there's badgers and foxes and squirrels and all sorts. I
know. It's hard for me to answer because I disregard these people off straight off bat. You know, I don't even entertain watching them anymore. You know, so it's like
basically you do think a lot of people are too quick to jump to the paranormal conclusion.
Well, yeah, a little bit, but they shouldn't be in it. You know, for me, they shouldn't be in it. They shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I've seen, but on other end of scale, like I know somebody personally who wants everything to be that truly in their art, and will jump to conclusions because they want it to be real so much. Yeah, as well, and that's like a more innocent but still bad.
Yeah, because you've got to maintain that scientific element to it.
Yeah,
you seem the word investigator is there for a reason.
Yeah.
You know, it does mean that you're supposed to look at both sides of the coin. Sam?
Yeah, when you mentioned, you know, breaking up twigs, the woods and that's exactly what came into my head. I've seen so many investigations in woods, and guys, did you hear that? The thing is, in woods, you've got everything from a mouse to a deer in there.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, in some ways, if you have investigators that are getting very, very popular, and their audience is what's driving them now, which used to be the paranormal, jumping to conclusions adds to the excitement.
Yeah.
And very often they end up conditioning themselves to jump to conclusions. You know, and in fact, you know, like Andy says, I don't watch a lot of these people anymore.
I've
You know,
actually cut right back on the paranormal channels I watch. Right back on them. You know, I'll probably watch a tenth of the channels I used to watch nowadays. You know, because the more you do it yourself, the more you start to, you do tend to pick up when things don't seem to be gelling right. Shall I put it that way? You know,
Yeah.
sometimes you know they either appear too good to be true, or you can tell it's blatantly not real.
Yeah, I mean, like I've had comments in my videos where say, you know, how can you be as cool as a cucumber when you just heard a bang there? You know, the first thing that comes into my head, that's interesting. Now, what could it be?
Yeah.
Do you know? We don't very often, you know, many people go into many buildings and nothing has happened.
Right.
And at the end of the day, if anything does happen, 9 times out of 10, it's not going to physically hurt you in a lot of cases. So there's no need to be scared. So just, first of all, keep a clear head.
Yeah.
And find out natural causes before you. And once, if you cannot find a natural cause, the next possibility is there may be a natural cause that you have missed.
Yeah.
Then you can look into into possible paranormal. The problem is the middle one. The natural explanations that you have missed. That is where the problem lies. You know? So, you know, but jumping to conclusions is a big one, especially when it involves viewership and stuff like that. But then again, you have these people that are starting out on the paranormal. They are going to jump to conclusions because they're expecting things to happen. You have these people. Oh, we're going Saturday night. We're going to, you know, we're going to join. We paid some money to for this ghost hunting company. They're doing an investigation of the town hall, and they never experienced the paranormal.
Yeah.
They're going to go there, and they really want to have an experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're going to find it. They're going to try and find it in whatever way possible. Do you know?
Yeah. Right. Well, I'm going to close the stream down shortly. I'll just say we'll be doing another card reading session on Sunday if Andy's free. Are you going to be free, Andy?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, so we'll be doing another card reading thing on Sunday. I'd like to thank everybody for coming on. Before I leave, I'm going to pose one more question to both the panel and see what their response is. Right, doing a spirit box session, both of you. If you'd got a choice of either, which one would you rather have come through on your spirit box? Jesus Christ or John the Baptist? Andy?
John the Baptist.
Yeah, I'd say John the Baptist.
Just cooler.
Sam?
Well, I would go for the top man. I would go for Jesus Christ. But if I did,
JC himself.
but if I did pick John the Baptist, the first question I'm going to ask: have you ever spoken to a guy called Steve Hope?
Right. And on that, on that happy note, I would like to say thank you to everybody. Thanks to Andy and Sam for coming on the panel tonight. It's been a great discussion. Thanks to all you lot in the chat, because you really do make the streams. We wouldn't have the laugh we had without you and your questions. So thank you all very much. If anybody wants their cards reading on Sunday, it'll be 9 o'clock again, UK time. Just get in as early as possible. Get your name down, and normally I do the first 10 that get the names down. So thank you all, everybody. Have a good night, morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are. And we will see you all on Sunday. So have a good night, everybody. Good night, all.
Night.
Good night. Good night, all.
Good night. Bye.
Bye.